I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's completed.
Hey, Lily, are you posting the link?
I will.
Do we do a timed thing for thank yous?
Y'all should.
I should. I mean, you and I can. We are the
You
executive.
can enforce it.
What?
You can enforce it.
I can tell them we get fired. I was gonna say no time thing for the. Alright. Okay with that.
Up to y'all.
That's my opinion.
No, hey. I'm okay with that. We didn't have a discussion about this. I was kidding. Yeah. Do you have enough seats? We need more seats. All right, hold on a second. Who's on? Who won the flip? Who won the flip? You know?
There should be just 7. Who? 9. Oh, girl. Tell me I can't get somebody who wasn't fucking online, y'all.
It was hard to balance. Catherine did a great job with that.
And so that means
Yeah, I might as well got another one of my motherfuckers for me. 'Cause
so then it's not.
Okay. Who's that?
We do not.
Oh, I need to start a chain, don't I?
Wait, Jason, is there anyone online?
Yes, the bond's online.
Oh, okay, we have it on Twitch.
Like, for real, y'all. For real. There's not anybody in Bing.
Maybe one of my teammates might have extra.
Ain't nobody from Well, but that's not who doing it now.
Yeah, Devon's in the check. I don't remember. All I know is that this panel took it
Rob, Alonzo is
to
right
get
here.
the balance right.
I was wondering why
So this was.
After the first
So you just put another table, is that what?
Yeah, we're waiting for the tables. I'm going to announce and introduce the teams. We'll do their thing.
Can't we just do like
No timing, but I think we'll let them do the thank you speeches.
can we do the thank yous before?
Yeah, what we're going to do is have the thank yous before.
I did really like that.
Yeah, we're going to do the thank yous before. No timing, but so they don't have it. It's not the prep
So
thing.
it's
Just
not
like,
the middle of the day.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to.
Hey, get y'all thank you shit ready. Get it together. Make sure you got your provost, your department, your admin, your donors. You have all that stuff? Your department, your donors, your admin, all of that? Okay. Your mama, God, Allah, all the people. All the deities, all the entities.
I am not affiliated. You all heard that? No, so reasonability does exist in things.
There's not a good way to get both of you in a frame.
We can, if it's for Devon, well, we're gonna get feedback either way. Is this streaming to the Zoom or is this just recording?
This is live.
Okay. I mean, what we could do is just have this go to whoever's debating, so we have a microphone close to them, so we have a decent audio.
I mean, the audio I've heard from this is phenomenal. Like, it's just great.
Then I'm not
So
sure
just
why.
have them do the Zoom
Yeah,
link?
I mean, like,
Or have them do the live link?
Not just use this, the audio is good and that.
To use the live stream?
Yeah, they'll use the live.
I mean, to be,
The reason would be to ask him, are you ready? And he can't say yes.
we could have this.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh,
Feedback between these because no feedback, no audio is coming out of the live stream.
You're
That's
right.
true.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, we'll just move that, and what we'll do is we'll move that between the teams as they're speaking.
okay.
Oh, I guess.
Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. The video name is
Back there. Oh, they're bringing our table. Yeah, this is not on.
This may be yeah, we're gonna do the four speeches in 4 minutes. There's no
That was the best one.
What? Yeah. Yeah, you should have locked it. You should have locked it. Wait, is TT Nick there though? Oh. What'd you do now? Aren't you about to drop this because of that?
I'm good. How are you? I am. I'm really excited. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really excited. Yeah. A bit tired, but I have to remember it's only 5 o'clock in California.
You're not wrong. Yeah, I think you can just start the
Because I don't know why this tournament is drag at, I mean, not tournament, this hotel drag at some tables. You just get the table from the back, pop it, right there. That's all you do. You just get the table, pop it.
Yeah, the tables are coming. Do we want to alternate the thank yous, or do we want to have affirmative and then negative?
We can do the affirmative.
And then the negative. Yeah, I think it's... All right, folks. Thank y'all so much for coming. This is one of the best Ceda finals I've seen all year. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being at this great tournament. As the second vice president, I'm very pleased to announce that the Ceda finals is going to be between the affirmative of Iowa AP versus the negative of Kansas SS. While we wait for the last tables to come in, we are going to have the two teams give their thank you speeches. So we're going to start off with the two affirmative speakers, and then the two negative speakers are going to give their thank you speeches, and then we're going to go right into the debate. So if y'all have picked who's going to go first, go for it.
All right, me first. Oh wait, I believe Joe Jackson invited me on Zoom to join a breakout room, so I suppose that I will do that. It says the debate, that's great. I will turn on. Right. I don't think y'all need to be in the Zoom because we have this computer that will look at this.
Okay, we have a dedicated Zoom computer for the two.
Yes.
Ceda thinks about it. Well, this was an Iowa idea, so Iowa thinks about it.
Shout out Adam. No time.
Yeah, no time. I mean, if you want one, just don't stand now. Deep cut joke.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, speech. Nice to see everyone here again. I'm indebted to so many people, too many to list in one speech that's a little rushed because everyone's tired, but I have a lot of names to get out and a lot of people that I cannot be here without. I keep thinking about the activity Rob did at the beginning where like people stood up if they had a connection to Baylor, and like it didn't work out so well in the moment. But like it really made me think about like just the web of people that both uplift my ability to debate in the first place and also makes this activity vitalizing and worth it to come back to day in, day out. I want to thank both my parents for all their support, helping me get to debate camp, helping me, get to college, everything they do that makes any of this possible. My brothers, Alex and Misha, specifically Misha, who helped me make my first ever film for debate and taught me that the art I love can be in the activity I love. My roommates, who have been the reason more or less that I haven't dropped out of college yet, who give me such support even though they don't know anything about debate and quite frankly don't really like it. And my Uncle Kurt, who's probably my biggest supporter from my family, following all my tournament results, sending me congrats for every award I get. It's that support, and it means so much to me, and also, because I think he's probably watching, congratulations for you and Amy. I can't wait to be at the wedding. There's a lot of Lane Tech people I want to thank. Lane Tech debate was kind of a strange place, kind of a Lord of the Flies situation, because we lacked formal coaching that wasn't student acquired. And so, because of it, all I had to rely on were my teammates like Ariel and Eric, and Alice, and Braxton, and Sam, and my last partner, Tucker, who made my last year of high school debate, even though we weren't a team that bid, we weren't a team that was ever particularly successful, made it one of the most creative and challenging years of my life, and is what catapulted me into college debate. Mr. Kim, who has held the Lane Tech debate program together, even though it's been attempted to been raised multiple times. DeMarvin and Keurig, I missed your shout out last time, so here it is. Also shout out Zoe. There's a lot of Iowa people I want to thank. Hold on, I gotta pull up the doc. I want to thank the Ceda administration for creating and sustaining this tournament. I made this joke last year that, this was the real finals over the NDT, but this year, having been in college debate longer, I've come to appreciate more what this tournament means and what it means for a national with such big name presence to be so accessible, to be a tournament where people can come and try out new ideas as much as they can come and rehearse arguments they've been doing for their full career. And so I truly appreciate everyone that helped organize it, Phil especially for Mr. President, to run this tournament so well, but past just like the logistics going well, make it such an incredible space. Thank you to Bing for hosting the tournament, and thank you to a lot of people at the University of Iowa, President Wilson, who is so devoted to the program, Tanya Uden-Holman, our provost, who also is just such a shooter for Iowa debate, that our ability to travel like we do would not be possible without her. Iowa is not necessarily a state that always wants to be on the best side of argumentation like ours, so to have people in the administration that want to shoot for it is incredible. My teammates at Iowa, I appreciate you all so much. You all challenged me. Iowa EW, I owe you so much for obliterating me in so many practice debates because you helped me get so much better. Ben and Lily, you two are so positive. I'm so proud of how far y'all got this tournament, and I'm so happy y'all get to be here with me now. B, Rose, and Kai, your presence around the squad and around tournaments is always so lovely and always just like a great way to disperse the stress of the day. Paul, our program director, I owe incredible amounts to. I remember I got lunch with him not too long ago, and when I first came to Iowa, I was here with someone else who was objectively more successful, and I always thought, well, if they don't go with him, they'll go with me, which is nice, I guess. And I sat down with Paul, and Paul was like, you were always the A-strat. You were always the one who wanted it. And having that support from someone who didn't come from success meant the world. Tessa and Natalie, I owe you to the world. You two have helped me learn so much, not just in debate, not just about theory, but just how to be a woman moving through the world and surviving and doing trans shit, and are like both so immensely approachable and people I can talk to about anything, but also like idols that I wish I was so bad, but I won't be that cool, but that's okay. Taj, I did never think we'd get you at Iowa Debate, but oh my God, it's so cool that you're here. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all you do for both EW and for us. Having you to just walk with before rounds is like, I think essential to my success, and also just like stop me from going crazy. Spencer Owen, where are you? All right, I don't think he's here. That's okay. That hurt so much. Spencer Owen, I appreciate all you do for the team immensely. I am someone who is deeply averse to the techne of debate in any meaningful sense, and it has to be drilled into me. And Spencer Rowan is such an expert at it that he is able to get me to use words that I really never want to use, like impact comparison. Ryan, thank you, girlie. You are such an incredible friend. You were such an incredible teammate, and before that, you were such an incredible coach. I owe you so much, both as like a trans debater who follows in your footsteps. Literally, I stole your seat in the Iowa Debate Squadron, and as someone who is just generally, someone I consider a really good friend. Miley is probably asleep, not watching from home. Thank you for all the work you do, both with Iowa Debate, but also just like helping me not fail philosophy, and helping me become a better academic and theorist outside of any of this. And lastly, Dr. Tyler Snelling, thank you so much for all of the support, the weekly meetings that both help me grow as a debater, but oftentimes, more importantly to you, sometimes my frustration, a scholar. And without the team culture you've built, and specifically the culture of study you've built, we would most certainly not be here, and I would most certainly not be planning on going to grad school and continuing the sort of work I've started to think about in debate. Non-debate people, Dr. Emerson Cram and Kimberly McLeod at Iowa, you two are incredible scholars and are incredible people I consult about debate, even though y'all know nothing about debate, and are still willing to sit through and listen to all of it. Thank you. So many people in the debate community that I do not have time to list, but I would love to. Long Beach. I appreciate y'all. Every time y'all have crushed us in the past, it has both been devastating and also such like an opportunity for growth. And to get to debate y'all in semis was like the next best thing to like debating y'all in finals, which would have been a movie comeback type thing. Eshkar, NYU, who we started hitting when we were both very bad and would womp us, and we got to grow alongside them, which was incredible. Basically all of the Kansas teams, I appreciate all of y'all so much. Y'all bring such a good vibe to like debate in general, especially at like a bigger school. It's like, you know, there's the inclination to be like a Michigan, but y'all aren't. Are actually really cool and forward critical debate in such important ways that like I am in fact like indebted to all of Kansas debate and always will be. Finally, a lot of people in Chicago debate. My kids at Kelly, if you're watching, you better be flowing. I'm in finals tonight, and I'm going to coach them to win finals tomorrow of the city championship. And people at Chicago debate, Denise, Sunny, Chris, Joyce, thank you all so much for all the support you've given me both throughout my high school debate career, get here in the first place, and also like past helping me find work after college and all that good stuff. And also shout out Jay, you're my favorite transsexual. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Have the stand. Yeah. You know, I laughed at you for the stand, but the stand actually is probably necessary.
It's because you're short.
Oh, thank you, Jalen. I know. I am short. I got lower.
Not like Coachella, I can say that.
Many such cases. Okay. Okay. When we left for Iowa for the tournament a couple days ago, we got stuck in a tornado. And we debated from Chicago day one. And we spent like 22 hours in an airport for the second time this week after spending 22 hours in an airport coming back from the NDT. And I called Luna crying, and I was like, I just want to debate. I don't care that we're in an airport, I just want another round. I love debate. I've been doing it for 10 years. This is my 10th year. I spent 5 years in high school doing it. I spent 5 years in college doing it. Debate has changed me. It's made me a better person, a better thinker, better educator. Tim Edstrom, my high school coach, would tell me in high school when we would like, you know, we were kind of like breaking at those like bid tournaments that were like kind of bid tournaments. Like everybody knows what I'm talking about. Like they're kind of bid tournaments, and you like had to like drive to get to them, and like the bids and semis, and you're never gonna get it. He would be like, the prize for you winning this debate is that you get to have another debate. And at the time I was like, that sucks. Like that's the worst. I do not want to have another debate because we're about to get cranked. Because we'd be like the 32 seed, you know? Like I remember like we like debated like Grace Kessler or something, and like we were like the 32 seed and she was the 1 seed, and I was like, this was the worst debate ever. But the concept of the prize for winning winning a debate and getting another one has been running through my mind all day. And when I was sitting up here, I was prepping for this one, but I was also thinking and talking to Tessa about like debate and what it's done for me. And I was thinking, and I told her that, you know, the prize for winning the last debate was that we get this one, and that, you know, I got as many debates as I could because there's not another one after this. Okay, people. Debate is made of people, and we all make each other better. I want to thank Tessa. I cannot put to words the impact that you've had on me. I'm so proud to call you a mentor, a role model, a friend. You've pushed us to make our arguments in line with how we want to be in the world. You push us to read, to think about history and implications of our arguments. You know, sometimes I say this, sometimes I make this joke against like teams who I know we're gonna read framework is like, we don't read framework, we never have. And like, that's like maybe a broader thing of like, you've always pushed us to like engage with other teams' arguments really deeply, and I am so grateful to you, and thank you so much. Ooh, okay, Tyler. Thank you for dealing with all my bullshit. Every week we go into meetings with Tyler, and he has meetings with every single student at Iowa. I'm not aware of another program that does this, where the kind of head coach has meetings with every single student every single week for an hour. And in those meetings, Tyler deals with all of my bullshit constantly. We've had like hour-long fights about whether to give examples on the alts, and Tyler just like puts up with it, and he checks in on all of us. And I got locked out of my apartment because I left my keys in Kansas the other week, coming back from spring break. Shout out Avery and Luna's house where my keys were. And I called Tyler. I got back to Iowa City. I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. This is not your job, but I am locked out of my apartment. What do I do? Because, you know, like, my family's in Minneapolis. I don't know who to call, so I called Tyler, and he just really holds the team together. He makes sure that everybody is first and foremost like doing good in school, doing good as people, and I think that makes us all better debaters because those means have to be first. So thank you, Taj. Taj, practice debates, cross-exes are against you are truly a gift because not many people get to have practice debates against somebody who united the crowns. I debated you once as a debater when I was at Minnesota, and yeah, we got cranked. And in every practice debate, you know, sometimes the same thing will happen. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes I feel like we're getting closer, but. So thank you so much for the way that you helped shape our arguments. Natalie, card-cutting demon. She will find a card for anything. She found us just the most niche cards that I don't even know. I mean, thank you so much, Natalie, for everything you've done. Spencer, secret K coach. Oh yeah, he's not in the room. Whatever. Anyway, you know, I appreciate everything that he does for us, the way that he helps refine our arguments. I told him, I sat him down before the quarterfinals, I think, and I was like, we really need a cis person to reflect on how we should phrase this argument such that we persuasive to a cis person. And he came through, so shout out to him for that. To my teammates, Nate, growing alongside you has been such an honor. I appreciate the ways that you are always looking to engage deeper, the things that you bring to debate, the things you bring to our practice debates, the willingness that you have to, you know, I don't know, debate us when we want to go for framework against us, even though that's really not a strategy that EW goes for, in order to, you know, help us refine our arguments. Bashir, holy shit, man, you got so good so fast. I don't know, he's probably listening on the live stream. You got so good so fast, and I remember when Ben asked me to watch a practice debate. You went a practice debate for a TOC prep last year, and I was just so astounded at how good you were at debate then, and you've gotten, you know, exponentially better at debate since, and I know that, you know, you will do fantastic things, and you already have. Ben, Lily, Kai, Rose, B, thank you all so much for just kind of, I don't know, always being there for us, for practice debating us. We're always practice debating Ben and Lily, and like, I just feel so bad because we just tear into them. I mean, like, we're just so mean to them in cross-legs. It unlocks something in us to debate them. We're so mean, and I feel bad. But, you know, those practice debates really help us, you know, refine our arguments. A couple other people who are in kind of a place that's not quite a coach, not quite a teammate, but, you know, has been instrumental in shaping our argumentation. Tommy, who I know is watching. Mark sent you the link, or somebody did, I don't know, it was dropped in the Discord, right, Caitlin? The link was in the Discord. Tommy has it. For the live stream?
I can send it.
Okay, well,
I was watching.
oh, okay, yay. Tommy, you're a coworker who I look up to and respect as a coach. I've learned so much from you about how to be a good educator. You've pushed me to continue doing things like reading and to defeat fraudulent argumentation. The thing Tommy hates most is fraudulent argumentation. So we try our best not to do that. Shout out to UNM Debate. Seriously, go donate to them. I know I'm a senior. People are like, oh, like buy drinks for seniors. I don't drink. Donate to UNM Debate. Donate to the MNUDL. Donate to the Chicago UDL. In lieu of giving me like buying me a drink or whatever. B, who I heard from Tessa watched semifinals, always pops in on the Discord with a little B emoji from Tessa's computer. Picked me up from the train station when Tyler's flight was like delayed by a bunch of hours. Who has shaped our argumentation from afar for years. Who met with me and Ryan to talk about history and the archive when we were writing an app about that years ago that never got broken. Tessa gave us an assignment before this tournament. It was our only assignment, and it was to read a book, and reading alongside us was B, and some other members of who Tessa was calling the council. I appreciate everything that you have done for us as a historian and scholar. You've shaped just so many of our arguments. Caitlin, I'm so proud of you.
Hey.
Oh wow, I'm gonna cry. Okay.
Don't cry.
Thank you for pushing me to keep reading. Thank you for making me a better coach. I am so proud of you. I love you very much.
I love you
I
too.
cannot think of a better person to be debating against. In my last debate, I told you this earlier, and I'm saying it again now. And to be a freshman in finals and national championship is incredible. And everybody better watch out because Caitlin is a force. And I know how hard you work, how hard you've worked in debate, how hard you work outside of it. You're going to be a fantastic vet. You're going to be, you're going to win all the championships. Maybe this one, maybe not, maybe not.
I'm gonna win.
But it's high stakes because if I win, if you win, I owe you $20. So
No, you owe me $90.
You said 90?
Yeah, I said $10 for every judge. See, Snell, get that pocketbook ready, love.
To my other students and coworkers, not gonna name students, but I'm so excited to go to the TOC with y'all. We got this. To Akeem and Nolan at Edina, I learned from y'all about how to be a better coach, about how to be a better debater, breaking down framework into a bunch of different ways that Nolan does for us. Actually, I learned a bunch from him too, former teammate in Minnesota. Akeem, it's so lovely to learn from you as debate old head. It means a lot. Wow, this is long. I'm sorry, folks. My mom, my grandma, my brother, my sister, who support me, who I could not be here without Luna. I love you very much for longer than I've known. Thank you for letting me talk at you. Where's Luna? Oh, she's not here. Oh, yes, she is. Hi. Thank you for letting me talk at you about debate, even when it's late at night, for hanging out with me, for talking arguments, for being a fantastic writer, for low-key string puppeting some of our arguments. Congratulations on a fantastic career. So proud of you. Okay, we make each other better. Sorry, promise I'm almost time. We make each other better. Debate's better than any class or assignment. It pushes us harder than anything I've ever done. Oh, and shout out to Tim Estrom, which I did at the top of the speech, but that's my high school coach. But he we'll get coffee or we'll meet up or get lunch or something this summer, and it'll be great to see you again. Ryan, Mark, Ray, all my partners in college. I love all three of you very much. It's been an honor to be alongside all three of you. Okay, we make each other better. Yeah, that's the truth of the debate. I talked about how our assignment for Ceda was to read a whole book. All debate has its merits. I'm sure, probably a lot of people get a lot of value out of cutting 90 uniqueness cards for politics or whatever. But nothing pushes us harder than KVK debate. I was saying this earlier, that I don't know. These are the rounds that we're here for. This is what debate's about. Opponents that we've had over the years have pushed us, have really shaped our arguments. Eli, Diego, Curtis, Ryan when I was at Minnesota, Omar, Manny, Vic, AJ, Brooklyn, Dawn, Hina, Ariel, Jaden, Emily, Rose, Luna, UD, Joseph, and Jess. All of those people have shaped our arguments, have pushed us to read more, there's files full of unbroken stuff on my computer. There's dozens of books that I've read about all of these people's arguments in overlap with my own. And debate is a really unique site where we can do that, and I'm so grateful to it. I'm sure I'm missing people. I missed people in my thank you speech last year. I'm sure I'm missing people now. But it's hard to grab a thank you speech in an entire debate round as well. But yeah, thank you to everybody who makes debate fantastic.
Time for the next game.
Hi, everyone. Hey.
Oh, I forgot Monty. Shout out to Monty. Monty is coming for the crown next year.
We'll see. Okay. We both have a lot of thank yous, but obviously, I thank some of the people that fall behind the scenes when we all go off to tournaments. We'd like to thank the University of Kansas, the University of Kansas Communications Department, and our department chair, Jeff Hall, for the constant support of Kansas Debate and the cheers from back home. Thank you, David B. Pittaway, and all of the support of Dr. Harris and the KU debate team. I'd like to thank all of our alumni and the Jayhawks that continue to remind us that at Kansas, it really is hashtag family over everything. We truly cannot travel and do all the things we do without their support. Thank you to Binghamton University and Dr. Joe Schatz for hosting the memorable Ceda and all your contributions to the community. For it to be my first Ceda, it might be my best Ceda. To the rest of schools, y'all better show up. Thank you to the Ceda organization, Ceda TAB, and current Ceda president, Dr. Samuels, and the Ceda VPs for all you do to sustain such a valuable and influential tournament. One thing I've been recently discovering is that a lot of my relationship with debate has been predicated on pain. Whether it is running away from my mother's house and finding a home in debate, stretching myself until I'm exhausted, or even speaking with a sore throat, a lot of the parts of debate for me were pain. A lot of my writing in debate came from a place of pain, always trying to look for a moment of reprieve, sometimes finding it, and sometimes drifting, hoping that words that are put onto paper can somehow ease the pain. The feeling of pain changes, coming from different sources and mediating the changes that happen in my life. But one thing that never changes is the brilliance, love, tolerance, and sacrifice of my sisters. Not by blood, through blood spilled. My girls have never left my side, and for that I am forever grateful. My granny, thank you so much for shaping me into the young woman I am today. Though you get on my nerves sometimes, I get my old soul from you and would not know what to do with myself if it wasn't for your sacrifice. My great granny Bae, you're watching this right now. Hey girl, hey. Thank you for never letting up on me and telling me to take the debate as far as I could. Thank you, God, for keeping her here. I will never forget the times where quitting felt so necessary, and you always reminded me why I was here to do it. TT Monique and TT Bard, my BB and Sierra, thank you for never leaving my side, even when the circumstances of life evoke pain for you too. Thank you to my little cousins for showing me how integral it was to from my mind through curiosity and happiness. The reason I'm always happy and skipping is because of them. Since I was little, my family has taught me to be the sweet, loving, caring, and informative person that I am now, and I would not be here if it wasn't for you. Thank you, Kenwood, hashtag Broncos, which y'all know about that. This is my OG stomping ground. The first place that put the bluest eye in my hand when I was a wee 12 years old. Thank you for shaping me into a lover of books, chatter, social life, and providing me with the confidence that will last a lifetime. The Kenwood coaching staff, though not all girls, sadly. Thank you so much. Spencer, my best buddy, Tommy, Big Unc, Mark, my bestie, Joyce, my rock, Miss McSager, my fave Ginger, and my homegirls and homegirls, Ryan and Kavanaugh. Thank you so much for never giving up on me as a debater and taking a damn near novice my senior year in high school and turning it into a 6-bit TOC baddie. It wasn't just the wins that mattered the most, but the relationships you all created to help Monty and I get through the world as two black kids from the south side of Chicago who had nothing but a dream. Thank you to Monty. Through the ups and downs, Kenwood SW was whooping ass. And I wouldn't be in this position without you. Thank you to my best friend, Christy. I would not be here if it wasn't for you. Whether it was late night talks from 10 p.m. to 4, talking shit on the phone, flowing debates from 2017, or just learning to become better people with one another. You are the epitome of sunshine, and I'm so happy that debate brought us together. I would not be the person I am without you. I could never see a world where we aren't back with one another, because, girl, you're my soulmate. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I don't know who else I'll do life with. You are my rock, my inspiration, and a constant reminder of what it is like to have a genuine friendship predicated on loving and risking everything for one another. I love you so much, boo, and I can't wait to see you rock shit at the TOC soon. Hashtag Brooklyn Tech and finals, baby. To Asia, our relationship has been so rough, but the first thing I want to remind you of is that I would not be here without you. I know sometimes I like to be like, well, you did it on your own, but at the end of the day, I would not be able to do it without you. Sorry. Being my lab leader at camp to being my coach, you're the most kindest, reflexive, and coolest person I've ever met. You're the epitome of excellence and the embodiment of what it means to care about legacy. Thank you. To EC, oh God, EC, stop. Hey, little nigga, sign up. Sign up. EC is not just an amazing coach, but he's a try-or-die Kansas SS fan. I remember when I first met EC, and he was judging me in the finals of like the Niles Township tournament or whatever, and I was like, who is this white man, and why does he like my arguments? And I remember when I got to Kansas, I was like, who is this white man, and why is he about to be my coach? You are everything that it means to be a coach that is dedicated to the activity. Even though in college you weren't really saying the shit that we say, you have committed yourself to reading, developing, and making the world for two black girls livable in the face of the pervasive of anti-blackness. Dude, you're the coolest. Never forget that. Ryan, you're my coach turned best friend. Thank you for always seeing the best in me and having awesome ideas about debate and life. Lastly, at Kansas, I'm obviously going to talk about some more people that are probably like my teammates and stuff, but you know who I got to talk about? Nargis, my favorite human being in debate. I'm so grateful for everything you have taught me. I remember we first came to Kentucky and it was so awkward until round 5 when we hit beach. Whoop that ass, by the way. Oh, gosh. Sorry. Hey, don't drop the fugitivity link.
I got a ballot. She knows I got a ballot, right?
Hey.
I know I got a ballot, right?
Later. And that was when everything clicked. It was Kansas SS for life. And I never would want it to be any other way. You are a natural teacher, peacemaker, and lover, and the only person I would ever want to debate with in this lifetime. You have taught me how to operate as a black girl in college debate and provided me with the grammar necessary to understand what goes on in and outside the space. From telling black men they ain't shit, to cracking jokes in our static room. Every argument and digiphoto are emblematic of how much I fuck with you, and I hope it's likewise. I can't stand the idea of losing you next year, but I know it won't be so much as a chop as I think it is. Thank you to all the coaches on the KU coaching staff. Grandpa Harris, Jaleesa, my Shaylena, Ned, Mike, Bricker, Nathan Davis, and all the people in between who sat me down, made it happen, and invested in us. Thank you. Thank you to my teammates, Nate and Carson. Thank you so much for helping us prep, provide hugs. Sorry. Dude, y'all are amazing. And be the best 2 white boys in the world. Sasha, Shreya, and Aiden, thank you for not only providing us with food, handling logistics, and being amazing, but also having an amazing tournament. Isaac, 67 speaker, best nigga that did it. Thank you to Luna. Lunch with Lunas are what makes me who I am. Thank you to Rose for always pushing me. Thank you, AJ, the girl who always drives me to places to eat and have robust combos. Amon, we already know you, my favorite forever. Abby and Siggy, who are always on demon time, and anyone in between that I am blinking on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Gotta go. Thank you to Bashir. You're a cool dude, and I really appreciate you. So I'm gonna say. Thank you to all the Black women in my life who have mentored me outside of KU. TDK, Eli, Nahali, Jasmine Pickens, Ayana, Vita, Jason, Ashley, my Subi Sue twin forever. Hey, I hope you're on the Zoom. What's up, queen? Thank you for always providing me with the support and love to get through a tourney. Shout out Uncle Iggy, Devin Cooper, and Ryan Walsh. Y'all are like my debate uncles who are always cheering us on, and I can't fathom a world where I don't see you and hug you at a tournament. Okay, now to the real niggas. Shout out Wake AB, Townsend DP, USCMT, Wake MS, Wake HN, UTD DD, MSUGS, Northwestern MP, CSU Long Beach EJ, Southwestern AF, UNTSA GJ, Trinity CO, Townsend MR, and every Black girl who didn't get to go to this tournament. Thank you. Thank you for providing me life. Thank you for your commitments. Thank you for never giving up. This is legacy. Legacy through pain, sorrow, and happiness. Thank you for always knowing there was something for us. Thank you for all the times you sent chains, gave hugs, spilled tears, and blood for us to get here. Kansas SS will never forget you. To all the future Black femmes who will enter space, I love you. See you soon, Bama Jamma. Also, thank you to the haters. This ain't the end of Kansas SS, hoes.
Thank yous. First, thank you to the University of Kansas and our communications department, the department chair, Jeff Hall. And thank you to David B. Pidway and all of the support that Dr. Harris and the KU Debate alumni have provided to us. Thank you to Binghamton University and Dr. Joe Schatz and to the Ceda organization, Ceda Tab, and the current Ceda president, Dr. Samuels, and as well as the Ceda vice presidents for all you do to sustain such a program, and especially thank you to Dr. Samuels and people like Jaleesa who have sustained, sort of the legacy of KU Debate and allowed, for a space to exist for people like Caitlin and I to continue to do what we do. Debate truly means the world to me. I'm gonna try to read straight off of, what I have typed, because if I look up to the people, I might start getting emotional. Debate truly means the world to me. I'm a pre-med student, so there's not really a lot of capacity for me to talk about things that are important to me and sort of talk about what I'm passionate about. And so the poetics that I read when I debate, and it's like the things that I talk about truly, like, they do speak to me, and I'm so grateful for everyone that has provided me with the space to be able to do those things. I am indebted to you. Okay. Firstly, I want to thank God. I owe everything in both my success and my failures to Him, and nothing of that is truer than the fact that I'm standing here right now because I did not expect to be here, and I'm experiencing major imposter syndrome right now. Most people do not know this, but literally like a week ago, I was like in the hospital for like a week, and I was just like, I was out, like truly, like I was supposed to go to the NET and like help out everybody. My ass was not at that young NET. My ass was in the hospital bed from like a Monday to a Thursday, and I was just like, shit, like, am I gonna be able to go to Ceda? Like, that was where my head was at. But thankfully, I pulled through, and I'm so happy to be here. I think that my faith shapes and defines so much of my experiences. And if I had no, sort of higher power to believe in, then I do not think I would have been here or, had the faith to keep pushing P and all the things. I want to thank my family. My parents genuinely inspire me in every way and shape and form imaginable. As two people who immigrated to this country very young and experienced unfathomable challenges, they were able to overcome those and have given me the best life possible. And you guys single-handedly are the most inspirational people in my life, and I strive to be like you. To my little sister Nadia, she's only 9, but I love you so much. You're basically my baby, considering we are like 11 years apart. You're so funny and kind and truly the smartest kid ever, and I love you dearly. To Hakeem.
It's all right. You got it, baby.
You are genuinely a menace, bro. You're my best friend. You make me laugh to the point where I cannot breathe and my stomach hurts, and you give me the space to be immature and childish and make all the brain rot jokes that I want to make, and just entertain me when I'm being kind of an idiot, even when I'm mean to you, or I yell at you, or used to chase you around the house with a knife when we were kids. All that stuff. I love you a lot, Hakeem. To Iman, you give me purpose. For those of you all who have not debated Iman, because she's also a debater, she is amazing. I think that everything I do is because of you, and I want you to be proud of me, and because of how much I love you. Do not get me wrong, you know how to piss me off real bad, like really bad. If anybody got like a 2 to 3 age gap with their sister, like truly, something about her inspires a different level of rage in me sometimes. I don't even know how to explain it, but even in the midst of all of that, you affirm and believe in me as my little sister, and that means the world to me because I just want you to be proud of me. So thank you to Jenna and Jude and Sumaya and Ceda for being some of my favorite and my best friends back home, and for putting up with me even though we never get to hang out because you guys think that I put debate over you all, which is not true. I love y'all. Okay, debate people. Whew. Okay, first from KU, I want to thank Rose, Luna, Avery, Nate, Carson, Henry, and Connor for being some of my best friends on the debate team and being a face in the squad room that I can smile at or laugh with in the midst of all the chaos that is truly Kansas debate. Isaac, Aiden, Sasha, Estrella, thank you all for being here at this tournament with us, helping us with whatever we have needed, doing logistical things, getting us food, etc. I want to thank my Shay, AJ, for being my best friend on the team and, the person who has truly helped me going through it all of the ups and downs. They're mostly downs. Low-key, there were a lot of downs, and you have stuck by me through all of those things and given me the space to be able to come to you and talk about those things. And I'm so grateful for you. I want to thank Caitlin for being genuinely the best partner I could have ever asked for. At the start of this year, so much was very uncertain for me. And low-key, I didn't even know if I was going to be in debate. And at the start of our partnership, I was very nervous because Caitlin's such a ball of sunshine, and she's very energetic and happy about all the things and wants to, talk about debate all the time and is just very excited. And, the people who know me, I'm not always like that. I am not always, the happiest, most energetic person. And so I was very nervous. I was I don't want to dim her shine. I'm nervous. I hope this works out, whatever. And, it's truly the best decision that I could have ever made. Caitlin is the person that I never knew I needed and has just made me a better person both in and outside of debate. And she is just so incredibly smart, which has also made me strive to be better. So I'm endlessly indebted to you. Now, to KU coaches, Thank you to Elena, Ned, Ricker, Harris, Jaleesa, and all the other coaches at KU who, keep our program running and support us so much. There is a lot of us, and making sure that we all get to one place at the same time and are organized is a lot of work, so I appreciate you all very much. First person I want to thank individually is Asia. Asia has seen me through real bad times. Some of the worst times. I think I've cried in her office. I didn't know if I was gonna debate in college, and she's the first person from college debate who was yo, if this is something you're interested in, you should talk to me, this is something you can do. And it's just before Asia, I never really had an understanding of the fact that I belong in debate and that there is a place for me. I'm endlessly indebted to you, Asia. Truly, you have been more than just a debate coach to me. You have coached me through my personal life and navigating things with my family, and as I've grown into a young woman, and I truly cannot thank you enough. The next person that I want to thank is Ryan. Ryan's my little bestie at KU. I like to walk into I'll walk onto the 4th floor in our building or whatever, and I'll hear oh my gosh, Nargis, and I'm Ryan. Ryan is truly one of the smartest people that I know. She is able to innovate and think critically about things in a way that I'm truly grateful for, and a way that if it wasn't for her, I don't even know half the things that I would be saying truly, because I just have the same thoughts low-key all the time. And I love to key with you at tournaments and in Bailey and all the things, and so I'm very grateful for you. The last coach that I want to thank individually is EC. Lock in. EC started coaching me last year, and EC is truly one of the first coaches that ever truly poured into me and believed in me. And the first coach that was okay, that's my coach, that's the person I'm gonna have meetings with, this is the person that's gonna be with me at tournaments, etc. And I remembered I didn't really know who he was. I never really heard of him in college for real, and I never watched his debates or nothing. But he came to me and he was I want to coach you. You tell me what things you're interested in. I'm gonna do the work, and I'm gonna read, and I'm gonna lock in and help you all out and stuff like that. And that meant so much to me, because it's nobody had ever done that for me before. And the amount of work that EC does for Caitlin and I is it's incalculable. And so I am forever indebted to the work that you have done for us, and I love and appreciate you so much. Okay, this is gonna be much quicker now. The non-KU debate people. Firstly, I want to thank Maddie True and Claire Bradley, my girls from KU West. The giggles and conversations that we have, in the hallways, and text messages and FaceTimes, etc., and all those things. I truly appreciate them, and I love you all very much. I want to thank Ade and Mary, my Wake girlies, for always supporting me and giving me fabulous debates and watching me grow over the past year, from when I started coaching you all to when you watched me at Ceda last year, and now being in college debate with you all is such a blessing, truly. I want to thank a couple of teams, Liberty CL, MSUGS, Wake HN, Wake AB, Wake MS, Iowa AP, Bing CK, UTD-DD, CSU-OM, Southwestern, UTSA, for some of the best debates that I've had this year, and you all have taught me truly so much in these debates and forced me to think critically. Thank you to Rita, Ashley, Christy, Bashir, everybody at Baylor Debate, MJ, and everybody at USC Debate. As well as CSU Debate. You all are some of my favorite people in the activity, and it truly makes me so happy pulling up to a tournament. It's that first night in the hotel, and I see y'all. Thank you to a couple of judges who have truly formed a large part of my thoughts and the way I think about debate. I want to thank Subi, I want to thank Jaleesa, I want to thank Jason, I want to thank Nahali, Jasmine, Tati, Neymara, Devin, Tay, Ryan Wash, and Taj for being the people in debate who have been so formidable in the way I exist, in the way I think about arguments. The feedback that you all have given me, even if it was just judging me once, has truly changed the way that I think about arguments, and I really appreciate them. I want to say thank you to Jack Booth and Squid, who, although short-lived, coached me in high school and gave me the confidence to keep debating in college. I want to say thank you to Jam and Cook for always supporting me and checking on me during tournaments. Cook is genuinely one of my favorite people in this activity, and I'm so happy that I have a relationship with her. Almost done, I promise. Thank you to Omar for very quickly becoming one of my best friends in debate and always making sure that, I'm doing okay and not spiraling over, whatever I be spiraling over. Thank you to Jeremiah Rimson for always believing in me and being so supportive and reassuring, even when low-key the things that I say don't really make sense. And I lastly want to say thank you to all of the kids that I have coached over the past couple of years for, allowing me to pour into you and teach you the things that I know. Aria, Arnesh, Afifa, Kent, I see y'all on the Zoom. Ade, Mary, and the kids at SMS, Miriam, Ashley, Artie, Jacques, all of y'all have given me, purpose over the past couple of years. And so I thank you for that and allowing me to, create a legacy and start that process for myself by being able to share special moments as well. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you all very much. Iowa?
That's not going to take the context for Wi-Fi.
Oh, hold on. Sending now. My Wi-Fi is. Is that with me?
Y'all want that?
Oh, yeah. Fair enough. Alright.
Wait, it's not.
Sending heading attack.
Connect to a different Wi-Fi that's not
The hotel one. My hotspot it.
Oh, this computer is just really slow right now. That's not good. Do you have like 1,000,000 things like this?
Now it's sent. What's up? Yeah.
Okay, Devon, are you? I'm gonna continue to this. Hang on. So it's you. There we go. There we go. That's better.
Real quick. Alright, do people have it? No.
I probably do.
You take a second to turn the table.
Oh, okay.
Oh my goodness, girl, you are the ins. Or you're the outs. You can be right after this. You can be right after this.
Awful.
Or you could be really
Alright. Anyone want to stop me? Cool. And I'll start as soon as I have my back. In 1968, the San Francisco Police Department aligned itself with the organization Conversion Our Goal to upskill trans women in clerical skills for gaining respectable employment. Headed by police officer Elliot Blackstone, COG set itself the task to create a moral conscience for transsexuals that could align with Johnson's war on poverty. They hoped that by reforming themselves into model citizens, they were garnering enough sympathy from experts and bureaucrats to grant them access to surgery and the formal labor market. For this work, Elliot Blackstone was celebrated as the gays cop. An effective policeman, Elliot said, is a social worker. But policing as social service is conflation between mass incarceration and maintenance of trans life was precisely the function of Elliot's career. His employment was only possible by increased police funding through the Johnson administration's war on crime. Alongside increased arrests, police expansionism turned cops into overseers of nearly every funded state program for derelict youth, a category which exactly collapsed the street queen with select child. In the years to fall, Stanford University's lab for a special problem began pairing Elliot Blackstone's economic rehabilitation with access to medical transition for the so-called true transsexual who qualified. University clinics targeted poor trans women, organizing trans medicine towards middle class outcomes from transition. Rationalized by one clinician term rehabilitation, candidates need to reform themselves, not just in conventional women or men, but in conventional workers. Trans women's ideal destiny after sex might be marriage, but clinicians cared more that they leave sex work to become secretaries or waitresses, exiting the stigmatized underclass and vice districts. Sexology drew on anti-black and colonial history to invent transes as identity in the eyes of police and doctors that rehearsed stories about what transis was and who could access it. Women in Chicago 21. Sexology names the project to cultivate health, the health abortion was something granted a history, colonial contract, sexology names set knowledge practices, developed to allay manifestations of racial anxiety, maintenance works to stay away from the grid, generate a grid of incoherence, array of subject positions from which one might enter the different matrix of sexological knowledge, including bourgeois, subject, if the editor fit for their own position power, as well as minorities, actively seeking subjection to science as a mode of reason, institutionalized as endocrinology, public hygiene, criminology, clinical breakthrough, gender diagnosis, diagnostic taxonomies, continue to organize lived experience and make logics both familiar and sense of sexological persistence, as well as obvious ones, more and report right away, the army-based, executing the unfinished business of the sexological project across these sites. Sexology's fundamental protocol, ideology, personal responsibility, and individual autonomy that denies the reality of shared interdependencies, a conglomeration of university, clinic, state, and corporation to employ sexological science in most violent ways they are least identifiable. This regards traces as imperative to settler colonial genocide, dispossession, and enslavement through its colonial elaboration of global context. Sexology is afterlife manifests infrastructurally as racialized public health and housing crisis, architecturally as psychoid sexology seeking organized social life, not as a metaphoric but a persistent contemporary sense all around us in the logic of form. It's proliferate vocabularies for describing sexuality, self, and embodiment. The wages offered to select few invited COG, the economic rehabilitation program, were wages of social stability that offered them a place within the structure of whiteness and inheritance and property. Trans as identity organized life to maximize value and secures the racialized class promises of liberal citizenship by birthright. Under the frame of trans as identity, Stanford modeled its criteria for access to transition off Harry Benjamin's public research on the category of true transsexuality. In his private journals, however, Benjamin replaced true transsexual with good transsexual. Sexology did not invent transsexology, but produced its contemporary forms through the investment in the sovereign individual. Transsexology formed first as a mode of colonial statecraft that model for individuals, how to sexualize, dehumanize, and aggress trans-feminized people through panic, beginning with police officers. Sexological standards, trans women today is construed as an individual identity, a kind of personal property held deep within the self. Such attachment to identity makes transsexology the unspoken consensus of liberation and the hallmark of individuation within the trauma of man. Good reason 24. Transmissology, the target devaluation, transfemination, structures material work, the truth target is threatened, justifies, punishment, rationalized as legitimate response to having been victimized. Being a victim and judge, jury, and executioner, manifest through racism and class antagonism, short human worth, assigning value to identity. I offer a case for leaving such we get behind. Transmissology 6 2 and give the nearly everything concerning sex, gender, sexuality, race, and class, sorting people's relative degrees of guilt or victimhood, degrees of victimhood, precisely what transsexuality does make for resentful peers, obsessed solutions, social inequality. Everyone's implication, no one was exempt. There's no perfect language or discovered or invented to solve the problem of transsexuality. Every attempt to say how the world ought to be by pretending to endlessly describe its norms rules will fail, as all idealizations do. In their overcome this curriculum procedure of analysis appears in reliance on evidence of the past. When stakes are so high, it's difficult for the cost of reading wrong. I found myself saying less outside of research. Debate is a real nightmare. For every right-wing pundit, liberal, under extremism, there's symmetrical rudeness and aggression people who seem otherwise to be in the struggle with me. According to transformal panics are actually intramural. Be a mistake to think about politics or me. Study is a rare point of consensus across politics, identity, desires, and meticulous approaches to overwhelming evidence. Moves you in a different way. Break through all its march and things, rest order things. Warning politics is not the most urgent task. Transsexuality functions like leather, action, and drive, seek political clarity, and the goodness of madness, and democracy. It might yield far bigger rewards. What awaits is a certain unwarning. In COG, the economic rehabilitation program, access transition was paid in the wages and social eligibility from the labor contract of union jobs that those who made it through training were afforded, and from social recognition. Good transsexuals rehabilitated themselves into productive workers. Their reward was surgery versus those who did pass, who were gay, who did sex work, and who couldn't hold down a job. COG, the economic rehabilitation reveals that the clinics not just Stanford University's medical centers. The clinics gives them infrastructure that extends past its own gates, deputizing unions, labor contracts, police, border guards, university clinic doctors, work with the members of the national nuclear family into enforcers of its terms. These deputies as contract demand trans subject first perform accidental proof of trans as identity. To speak the anti-black and colonial language of sexuality, to give doctors and police the right story about who and what we are is when recognition of our gender is presented to us as though it was a gift. This narrative thesis, a quick exhaustion repeat after me, puts transsexuals into a state of indefinite performance through for our work, Montana 24. The argument of tactic merger response to trans antagonism, placing subjects in consistently defensive existential possibilities of the labor that exhausts possibilities for open. This labor aims at the simple fact of one's existence taken for granted. The terms of the rebuttal system ban trans subjects for its crucible of historical evidence devoted to truth in terms of growing which information about one's existence shared, and the simple fact of remaining a mystery to oneself are foreclosed by the terms of such a system. It just serves as a justification for us in the name of a revolution. A gaslighting logic. There is a narrative mesis occurring where trans women are confirmed with psychological abilities they capture femininity and medical professionals extort or demand from them. The clinic is a technological description. The story written upon trans binary Stanford confirms the system props up ideals, normative binary gender difference, races, actually existing trans people, and non-ideal cis people. The highest purpose of transsexuals to fade in the normal population as soon as possible. The narrative disappears the complexity and nuance of trans experiences. This matters because the stories we tell about how and what we are conduct our embodied lives. Different stories are different technologies. They produce different beings, all making and remaking on other terms. The labor market and clinic and social have never been the site of liberation. It's much too hard and far too rare that people get to transition, and no one has gotten to transition freely on their own terms because the value of transition has been pegged all along to the social forms demanded by the labor market. Sexuality invented gender identity as a gatekeeping device to restrict access to transition along racial and class lines. They divided sexuality from gender with the idea that sexuality is who you want to go to bed with, gender is who you want to go to bed as. There's nothing to be saved or redeemed at the clinic. I'm not asking you to save transit, I'm asking you to let it go. Vote AF to de-idealize transit as a method to orient towards transition. Branson 23. Recognition comes also in the form of the gifts. There's identity assignation, the individual subject comes to or identity from what you get the desire that underpins transit. We can't imagine that simply to feel snug fit within recognition. Transition doesn't idealize identity. The decolonial feminist understands the way we create and are created by social relations. This will help us stop reproducing the world in order to end it. The simple claim to refuse gender through identity. This will disrupt the regime, the rise of the autological suffering individual. In other words, it replicates colonial ideology. What is socially relevant is transition, not identification. Desire for transition, kind of hunger, disallows one to remain in both category, helps it rethink transit outside of the individual. Refusal of the wages, social stability, our dominant world offers a glimpse into new form of solidarity can reorient a social relations away from the reproduction of the family. Out of myself. It's not that transition makes you a better person, but it does make you a different person. Find new forms of relation, discovering a community that life can be lived otherwise. Our horizon, the evolution of gender, the racial and colonial system, hierarchy, surveillance, and violence, while also supporting a person's transition, getting everybody everything they need to realize that transit itself must be abandoned along the lines of struggle of women of class to end women as class. Transition as a refusal of the wages of this world must go further root out logic of anti-blackness, corruption, state, racial capitalism, sour colonialism, homophobia, and trans society. This allows for unexpected connections to position imposed identities like racial and gender don't automatically connect us. Not all gay people are comrades. This connection cannot be the enemy. The ultimate connection must be the need that we find between us. The work that we need to do different from work under the capitalist scheme. Grounded in care of transition, ushering each other through the process, knows we will fail and try again. Our refusal, of course, will be assigned gender and of the society that understands us through violence. We are already implicated, so we must start now. Sexuality's invention of transit as identity out of function. The goal of the clinic was simple: to stop as many people as possible from transitioning. All other outcomes were subsidiary. De-idealization is mode of historiography and practice that requires interrogating sexuality's legacy in the present. I'm in 23. Its flight from trans people exemplifies the problem with the field. Evaluate trans words through a grid of core value, distorts trans people's worth and deeds and overflates them with what is queer about them. Turn trans into a prefix that might have value to any noun with the devil's bargain. Scholars outside the field were too happy to play with trans. If we really wanted to up on the field, we'd just be candidly about our lives as transsexuals. The way we might talk over dinner, text message, pages get fired before allowing readers to read something truthful about what being trans actually feels like. Outside political idealization, the fields will say about what it feels like to be trans, about how race, class, and gender affects the quality of experience and the meaning of trans life. We need it as neither to run away from trans and retrofit it into an existing schema of queer, but to think even harder and more inventively about it. Staying with from the history rather than invention of colonial progress narrative of trans politics are that began heartily to ask some really important questions such as when and why did transit become an internal identity? Scholars can actively resist the use of the term trans. Everything remains to be done. One started point would be to evaluate the history of sexuality. Instead of trans, this has always been here. De-idealization is a paradigm shift in our politics and thought to start from the reality that it hasn't. Only that can sever trans studies and trans politics, anti-black and colonial investments at the root. Montana 24. I'm skeptical about the desire for trans history. The idea that trans subjects aren't necessarily new. What was invented was a very specific protocol for medical, legal, and political management. I'm skeptical of the idea that trans existence is we're doing not only if trans subjects know for as long as they can remember. Only if scholars can speak to a long history of trans subjectivity, this narrative of trans identity takes shape in relation to a national narrative of technical advancement, inseparable from latest continues circulating in subsequent iterations of trans historiography, where in which trans identity has a special relation to status in relation to becoming a national freedom, not beloved but semi-incorporeal with white trans futurism. It is a misunderstanding seeped in violent modern colonial logics. That is logics on the second left guard.
Okay. Are you good for calls?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess the app has identified historiography.
Sorry, Nargis, I
Oh,
forgot.
yeah.
Devon,
Hold on.
My phone might or may not be able to hear you.
How do I want to do this?
Let's see. I have an idea.
Right by the iPad?
Yes. Well, Okay.
Devon, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. I'll restart. The app has identified historiography as a praxis. I guess like you all have done this several times, read this affirmative multiple times. I guess what about that historiography has changed a condition, or like what has that done?
Two arguments. One, we think the app's historiography has changed since over the time we've been reading it. We've been learning more about the history of sexology, which has allowed us to develop a more specific critique to better unearth how this shit happens, right? For example, the Lubin and Vaccaro evidence that goes really deep into sexology did not exist until like very recently because we needed to learn more about what we were trying to critique. Second, we think de-idealization is a good sort of method for historiography and for engaging with like trans cis as identity now.
Okay, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that. I guess like you have said like de-idealizing sexology is good. I guess like what does that do for like sort of the material conditions about how people are implicated by those things?
So, two arguments. First, we have made an argument that de-idealizing trans cis smashes the figure of the true transsexual. The graph is important for understanding like the material implications of the app, I think. So the clinic constructed the true transsexual as the ideal.
Wait, go. You can do it.
The figure of the true transsexual, which all who wanted to transition were gate-kept in relation to, but this was a false flag. I can hand you the graph.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I can hand you my.
Can we get the graphic?
Yeah. Can we get this graph? I want to compare with mine. Okay, so you said
Goodness.
right.
True transsexual.
I think you missed the part.
What?
The part that said this is the FYI.
Yeah. So that is why we've read several pieces of evidence in the 1AC that say the stories we tell.
Yes, the stories that you tell
and
that are able to demystify forms of trans misogyny and trans misogynoir that you have demystified the entire year. Our argument is that demystification is not unique. Insofar, one, the black males in front of you know this is a myth created by Western man, etc. But also, you don't do shit. It's a FYI. The world is implicated by trans misogyny because of the clinic.
I'm confused as to what the value is just like re-theorizing or re-idealizing or what those things actually do.
Yes. So we've made a second claim as part of our message statement that it's how we learn to orient towards transition. We have made a uniqueness claim about trans politics broadly, the status quo oriented towards securing trans
identity. I understand what's going on with
identity.
trans politics, and I understand all these arguments, but I'm just like, you have said that in the face of those things, FYI, let's re-theorize, let's rethink about the things, whatever. I'm concerned about what that does about the material conditions of the trans people who are implicated by the uniqueness question that you have isolated.
Precisely.
Like you've said in multiple material conditions and have said in the face of those things, we should re-theorize. Like, hello, you've been re-theorizing all year.
Here's the crucial part. Insofar as we have presented multiple pieces of evidence that say the stories we tell either produce gatekeeping effects or could open up onto a politics of transition.
Okay, what politics of transition has it reopened?
That is good.
Okay.
But you don't tell a different story. The one in CSN. There you go. Yeah, you have animal cracker. It's because you like eating the figure of the animal, huh? Sorry. I have to say it. Okay. Has everyone gotten the 1AC? Okay, cool. The order is one in case. Is everyone good? Okay. Oh, you can't see me?
Oh, sorry.
Hey, people. I'm going
Sometimes when I close my eyes and the world suddenly becomes smaller, there are tides that bring images to my mind. Not of strangers, but of women who look like me, whose cheekbones make or the ways that melanin flushes in their faces, or the way their hair kinks like mine. And even in the tender ways, how the fabrics may lay gently on the crowns of their heads, or drape over their shoulders and tie like mine, whose skin glistens in the dark. Women whose names I do not know and whose faces I cannot place, but whose breaths start to sound like my own when I am tired. I see them in East Kivu running between minds while the soil forms to the shape of their souls. I see the mothers in El Fashion holding their children, wherever they came from, out borders that refuse to recognize them in Harlem, staring faces of utmost brutality in the faces that you would think they turned to stone.
The human on unitary sovereign uniform respiration certified cause unknown think about black sense the idea of being human as a solution for dying humanity, but the blind suspicion of humanity, so recognition and exclusion are extended to black people. And there's a process of the very community. I describe like system motor transformation whereby the flesh being a black is experimental with as infinitely malleable, so that black is produces human, some human, superhuman at once I think about. On top of classification, I'm seeing that black people have strange and relates to form, plus system maintains that black people are not so much non-humans or cast liminal humans, but are cast sub, super, and humans simultaneously in a matter that puts being imperial because operation simultaneously being everything and nothing in order. Because black humanity is improvisation, is open to form, is not proceduralized. Demands for serialized states like the first you're a human, then you're an animal, but demands that black humanity be all forms, though forms simultaneously these appearances are subtended by demand that tends towards the litigation of state or ontology, whereby the abstraction of boxes and flesh be an ongoing process from matter to such racialities, materialization that the materializing materiality. So I think that scientific conversation of philosophical one has largely avoided conflict and race and not been able to reckon with any kind of direct way to work this. What I argue includes a quite centralized history of experimentation on black and flesh, occasioned by slavery in the afterlife. And I realize that in the face of all the forces that have come before me, that have made their attempts at forcing monstrous currents between us and turning the tide, and the distance between us was never oceans, never borders nor nations, that in the face of the domination that may travel through ships and markets and law, so do we. The lost story sharpens the hunger for them and is attempting to provide closure when there is none. Constellation has all the anomaly box constellation. I was forced to admit that I once to console myself with the vision of something other than the two girls unpolar and analytic. I cannot share anything. I cannot have a right and another conclusion, so it was better to leave them. Because I found them two girls alone. A story when I have transpassed better to the archive. I want to see history. I long to write a new story. I feel the revised contracts, the documents. I imagine Venus outside the statements. Statements that bench from the human was beyond. I could be a thought. When the parameters of history and black feminist thought must continue to develop more complex analysis and the impressions, how the algorithms do their effect on group composition and history, their influence, and collective strategies that resist the use of black feminism will remain hindered unless incorporates more comprehensive analysis of how a nation can constitute another form of oppression. A nation consists of a collection of people who have become to believe that they have been shaped by contrasting all this in the coming future when any group acquires sufficient state power that allows them to realize its goals and control the nation state, the differential treatment and use of blasphemy that the United States operates as nation state, disproportionately benefited affluent white men with the U.S. matrix of domination and target which has organized classes in ways that has varying impact on women and diverse sexuality because American citizens also taken for granted. We often have difficulty not only at the U.S. national effectiveness, its treatment is based in part on ideologies that use black women as the other. The mammies of my church will from the individuals who mark the boundaries and normality. Same assumption are limited and understanding how U.S. nationals operate scoping these concepts and effects of nationalism become difficult to see, let alone resist because they seem so everyday and taken for granted. In the absolute outside is that examine U.S. welcoming global concepts such as work and can foster absolute use for policy not important, something else the U.S. border does functions. To continue U.S. welcoming to stop the black women's interaction with groups that are already in the United States of global analysis not only reveals new dimensions of U.S. black women America, U.S. black women's experiences, but it's also the church transformation, domination, persistent external health of the African descent, intersecting oppression not to the U.S. borders, black women in Nigeria, Trinidad and Tobago, the United Kingdom, Botswana, and Brazil, and counter global social movements, the policy of the nation states, the global nation domination, which U.S. black women are situated to situation domination that are characterized by internally oppression and tragedy of classes women in Africa, in African Latin America, Asia studies tend not to accept by waiting for middle class white women to tell them what to do. These women are not just Nigerians about oppression. In theory, emerges from within practical terrain, the activism within the concept of women African descent have the same share legacy at the same time due to the peculiar combination legacy of the cultures and history, racial oppression, and an emerging global racism, which across the national borders. There seems to be a woman African descent and council issues. Despite national barriers, black women's opinions of the trade, the Marx relates that the history had a presence that legacy colonialism has resulted in global gender apartheid. Our attention should not solely on how blacks and African diaspora relate to each other, but how they relate to each other and what ties and lies. And dialogue across the very limitation of natural boundaries to new ways of relating to one another or to impact the interconnections of black women's experiences. I know that somewhere tonight, there is someone I'll never meet who is doing the same impossible work as I, perhaps even more. Attempting to hold together a world with hands that were built to carry so much. There's a strange intimacy here, an electric one, that comes with knowing at the same time that carried them here, carried me too. The shoreline describes racial temporal position of the subject, a queer place shoreline arose comes as a limited nation state. What if you see in the land arose them is what the wind and house allowed us to shoreline uses a metaphor to define the shifting ground of identification practice. Usually shoreline to think critically about legacy limitation to represent sections that have been so instructive and anti-oppressive work. For understanding Muslim remembers tied to the particular issue moved to the foreground, others to the background, depending on the face of the impression. Here as the shoreline where spaces have been stolen, we are needed, but with transformative. A redefinition spiral photos where never present would feel like a feline, etc. For hesitant to be afraid of our mothers when influenced by the mobile weapon. The solution is some safety, the heavy footed and hope to besides us this project has been nurtured and fed by conversations between the blessed plans. There were sometimes written to be spoken also on text that only survived in the projects no one remembers. And letters by desperate who could afford the phone bills while they were alive. The words never found the make of the arc of the project remains. Even if they never had a math or to hear about it, they produce and disrupt, they become intergenerational. The dangers that I might have access to those words and music now, we never let survive memories, last nature in. These dangerous words survive. Writing is dangerous because it's black, even every people that is work knows that what happened, they were telling about films anti-capitalist. Writing is fairly dangerous because the black women are not supposed to have authority to begin with, like Mr. Carver, co-mother, shaped the communities, and has a reminder. Writing is visible, black women against the call of concept, like necessary only because the difference persistent writing is a reminder here. After Shoreline, who's black mother, how did she decide, how did she survive, what are her needs, what is the my desire to return this archive of possession. The work is for those who has, for those of us who risk radical dispossession and possessions of material traits not inherent property, the relationship between material and material for me. So why everything that black women created is criminalizing by feminism, by black nationalism, by mainstream black media, all how and I was I produced by series given chosen mothers by society refused my way. I am things of black women have never mystified black events, production is doomed materialism, archivically and efforts of materialism, this project intimate death. This is an academic impact machine and they will say that designed to kill the product, see a race possibly route production, and this work under the material. That's the fear and urgency to hyper this and will see this fiction that compels our because it happens in the primary for how to understand the temporary world. This project seeks to reveal a poetic pedagogical intervention, what happens to be identified career black worker. Mother becomes a teacher, we can learn about the social reproduction of racism and capitalism to the civilized work of those making poets who have to produce something else here, some birth something here. There are ghost readings over my shoulders, there is death something here. We will never survive. Welcome home.
So here where the waves meet the sand, I will be, awaiting their stories and their being, awaiting you. And no matter how many hours may pass or how much the water may recede, because I know that somewhere, perhaps at another point here along the shoreline, there is somebody out there listening for me too. To the ones who were never meant to survive, never meant to be here because they were too expensive to afford. In the face of every theory, every song, every stall of love that has failed you, to the ones laying, standing, waiting, and insisting with breaths that were never promised, to the one whose skins turn blue in the moonlight, who may never attain the futures that were promised to them or left somewhere other than beneath the deep sky or the heavy waves. Welcome home.
Case. First is presumption. A, the applicant can be not unique. Spread is basically less necessity and outside polluting. They miss more than mental for black women's well, who are already doing this shit because black women's energy is already finite in the air, masculinized policing, deportation, Trumpism, etc. B, black and trans women have already been doing this shit, mothering one another, building infrastructure and space our community, and D, idealizing transits. While you have assumed this shit is revolutionary, but then the about either A, the work that black children are doing now isn't enough to erase your impact, and B, the avenues necessary for niggas. This shit is already being done. The base demand for every industry, technology, and inability to recognize the affirmative, they are constantly radical, but the form in which this is presented ensures it's taken up in violent ways. That's Baldwin. 22. Social movements and other news areas, studies, programs, and women's and black studies, such as field and the universal type of capital reduction, ideology so strong, observes critique, the more things change, the more to maintain. Integration with other institutions, survival, incorporation, different systems did not change. The architecture that reproduced amount such a carbon writes about the precarious and empathy has one give expression to outrage without the but it was physical or not to the identification of elevates other opportunities, although we have historical records of the slave. Naming their pay is impossible for us to imagine everything they must have felt. I include technology, discipline, evidence technologies. All new iterations, certain same functions frowned upon in the specific university, not interested in measurements of your being progressive. Black women states are not part of the economy, whatever difference between critical and engagement with academic solution. Racial generate bodies are made accessible to help us accept the inclusion about political conformity. The category like to move on for the involvement in the system focus on diversity and inclusion performances. And the one is called the brief life tradition of black women is attachment to a utopian past, which is easily caused by the state to channel insurgency. It's non-violent liberal strategies. The applicants of the cultural document circulate to invest hope. It's the same field strategies of resistance. Trotman. 23. Ways that hyperventilated organizer create the made for market or proof work that offer resistance black resistance duty is a tradition of movement is always a compromise and pattern of opting for black culture gives back searching cost rebellion. Circulation compliant radical thought comes the political culture that keep it searching nutrient capitalist body and activity conditions for freedom, the policies of which limits overlook the favor and like affirming projects of black thought are example of this. It is a question of what is a Russian redeeming circulation radical thought produces states of imperial. The next question in favor of plurality and strategies and movement build different uses of revolutionary force and attached to political spaces. Cycles and moments in the movement in either than left culture we also auto-generate counter-insurgent strategies and serving about the revolution favor and movements prevail for their pursuit of causes intended to deliver non-violent, inclusive, redemptive, and desirable futures. Mark the card at desirable futures. I am open for cross-examination.
Cool. I'm going to ask about this Troutman evidence first. Troutman talks about counter-insurgent circulation in spaces like social media from like false narratives. What should we do in the face of counter-insurgent circulation?
I think one is that the politics on the shoreline resolve this because it chooses not to think about social media or ways in which forms of circulation in the academy function, but rather have used the ways in which we write to then create a practice predicated on being able to not just like de-idealize, but rather create strategies in the face of that, i.e. the shoreline. It's about the writing and loving, etc. that also comes with strategy. That is what Hill Collins card talks about in the context of how U.S. black women should be able to take up the work with black women internationally to be able to do forms of like radical resistance to be able to combat things such as capitalism, transmisogynoir, etc.
Okay. You say at the end there, collectivized forms of radical resistance. Will you defend the shoreline? External is this debate a set of tactics, or is it a question of this debate?
Well, we think it's also a question of this debate, but also a set of tactics, right? Weak in the face of the ways in which you have continuously affirmed a de-idealization of transits without a politic. The shoreline is necessary, not only send you back to the fucking drawing board, but also as a mechanism of being able to hold white people accountable when they talk about my sisters, which I don't do shit for them. But two, we do think that the shoreline is a mechanism of being able to create forms of strategies in the face of the anti-blackness and trade misogynoir, i.e., this is what the Gums card is talking about in the context of shoreline, where she says the ability to write and read and love is also the policy that provides us with the ability to do radical practice and strategies in the face of anti-blackness. Obviously, those tactics can look different because obviously different things call for different things for niggas.
Okay, so tactics look different in different situations. What binds them together, though?
What binds them together? We think it's, one, a question of undying commitments to black women, i.e., this is what the card is talking about in the context of the ability of the unpredictable and a diasporic, still coming back to the question of how we're able to create forms of kind of like politics that are surrounded around the way in which black flesh, or ways in which black flesh is plasticized by Western man, etc.
Can you explain the plasticity argument more?
The plasticity argument?
Yeah.
Okay. Jackson is making an argument in the context in which black flesh is understood as plastic, i.e. it can be infinitely malleable to fit into politics. We think that the way in which the one AC has invoked blackness as an afterthought, not even just an afterthought, but rather as a thing that has to be used as collateral in your politics, exactly what is that malleability, i.e. it understands it as sub, supra, and human at the same time to be able to be fit into your politics. That's why Impact turned it, so you should go back to the drawing board, period.
What's the link to like afterthought, right?
What is the afterthought?
Yeah, what's the link to afterthought?
What's the link to afterthought? We think the way in which you understood things such as Elliot's relationship to blackness is through their ability to also be able to police or make relationships to blackness that are seen as pathological. That's how you come to your understanding of sexology, i.e. the way in which non-black people are able to kill niggas, that means that is exactly what then produces or is the reason why there are productive, unproductive subjects, etc., or why sexology implicates those things.
So,
Stop prep. 45 seconds. Take it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm talking about some place to grow.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm open or whatever.
Did you say it was Sir?
no, he's going to bed.
Oh, okay.
like this is where it's at. It really wants to be.
Yeah, I just heard you. You said you're gonna watch the video. Oh, fair enough, dude. Okay. Well, how do you wanna like get into us if you're like God or like can't hear something?
Great. If he wants to chat in the chat, I want you.
Ooh, here's an option for you. Okay. Yeah.
Oh my god.
The other option, one of my Iowa debaters
I'm
mentioned,
hungry.
is that they are watching the chat. So if you like put
Can't
something in
even
the
bring
chat,
up
you
food.
can see it and say, hey. That's it. Thank you. And she asked you to put something in chat so she knows what your YouTube channel is.
So,
Okay, y'all. Vaughn is going to be joining shoot.
Oh, that is so smart.
And just shoot what in chat.
Avery.
It's in the river, like Grand Riverside room. When you're pregnant? Yeah. Thank you so much. I love you, bro.
Okay, we got the panel. The 2 Easy Sense group is y'all are here. I took 45 seconds of prep, so it's 9:15. Okay, the order is case lifted. Anyone not ready?
It's like finishing loading the rest of the document, sorry. Okay, yeah.
Vote affirmative to de-idealize transition methodology towards transition. The negative loss estimate when they consider the theory of transmisogyny a value systematized access to transition on the value the trans women can produce for the formal labor market. 2 impacts. 1. Transmisogyny is both instances of violence against trans feminized people and also a structure that creates consensus in deliberative spaces. This forces transition to be valuable for everybody else before it can be accessible, which is what denies transition to so many. Transition D linked to our 90 secures access not predicated on the value that it can produce for markets, which orients us to no questions asked. Great market HRT that exchanges hands outside the gates of the clinic or the informal economies that spring up around them. 2. Idealization. Histories of labor idealize the transsexual as the only narrative of transition, so long as sexological science and our research produce a form of racist respectability politics. De-idealization is a mode of historiography that abolishes the true transsexual as labor's ideal trans subjects. Now, presumption, interpretation, in critical debates, presumption is a question of the asked performative, methodological, or theoretical intervention into debate. They must win that each of these tenets is literally noted from the status quo. In other words, you should have a very high bar for presumption against critical affirmatives. Anything else that's like teams casting critical apps as doing nothing because they take aim at existing structures of power, unlike policy apps that do quick fix solutions. Insofar as you hold us to a standard of existing status quo, it is also true that the 1 and C does, which means that this this is a wash. Now, examples prove solvency. We have a theory of transfeminization, which is a departure from trans womanhood as was cascaded. We have a method of de-idealization of transes, which is unique because status quo politics, even on the left, are overwhelmingly attached to identitarian claims, which is our criticism of trans studies and queer theory that they perform. The third is performance. When I see it was literally unique because we have written this history across the year, and it is developed in response to now, non-unique, wrong, we have identified a harm in the way labor is historicized now and offer counter-historization response insofar as we pull links to, as we will pull and identify moments in the 1 and C when they have performed these same idealizations, then there is uniqueness. Now, link turn, they have drawn a graph. It is the same graph as ours, which reveals that our politics is important and necessary to theirs. Now, they say black and trans women are doing the work now. One, this cuts two ways. Insofar as they are right, then black and trans women are also doing the work of the alternative, which means that they presume the alternative and link turn the erasure impact. Two, yes, the affirmative is in fact necessary for black people. The work is in fact not already being done, and you should not presume that it universally is being done by black people, because this links to an idealization decide where they paint all black people as necessarily and intrinsically radical on the basis of being black, which was the thing that we had criticized. This is our argument about idealization. Now, the bottom piece of evidence, this is an academic critique. It says things like black studies, when institutionalized, are bad. One, they link to themselves because they are also reading with scholars within the academy. Second, Crossix litigated this out. There's no link differential between us. Therefore, third, the affirmative is with our time in here. Debate is a bad space for tactics, but is a good space for theorization, which is the thing that we have all kind of gestured to as the reason why we are all here. Reading, etc., are all things that debate can do for us, and so can things like performance, which means that those are the things you should evaluate. Now, the co-option piece of argument with the Troutman, there's link differential is a framing issue for this, insofar as their argument is that there's a lot of different tactics that could go down and that they think are good. De-idealization might be one of those. This is magnified by the fact that they drew a graph, and so that is a permutation on the academy arguments that which will also be answered on the critique. No, they're not. I'm doing a fade to normal descent at the top. Though 1 and C has proposed a theory of queer mothering, I'm going to impact turn that below. But that by reading a 1 and C that makes transition fade back to normal under the experience of queerness and mothering, they have reproduced the logic of trans identity and ultimately the project of the clinic. The idea that the goal of trans is to fade back into the normal population. They think that simply by talking about gender or queerness or womanhood that they are necessarily talking about the experience of transition. But that is precisely what they affirmed is necessary. That is that trans as identity requires trans people fade back into the population, such that they might be theorized about under frames that let translogy fly under the radar. This is a dissent of their performance, so even if their theory of power can be descriptive in the abstract, the version that they have performed requires the securing of trans as identity, so they can never de-idealize it. It also means that they certainly cannot solve the case because it makes trans misogyny a consensus point within their theory of gender. Now, you must weigh the unique impact of the link against the affirmative's impacts and against dissents to the alternative by the two AR. They will identify a series of links to the affirmative, but only we will provide you with explicit impact comparison between our alternative dissents and the link to the impact and the impact to the link arguments. When that is the case, you'll vote affirmative because our argument outweigh. Now, they say we don't do shit for black people. This is cross-X. One, link turn, the affirmative de-idealizes the trans subject. That is why when I see, for instance, says transition doesn't make you a better person, quote, not all gay people are comrades. The negative has misread the historical record to conclude that the fact of transition is whiteness. This buys the lie that sexuality is selling because only those capable of accessing subjectivity, like white, wealthy, heterosexual people, are historically allowed to access things like transition in the first place, but they overgeneralize this to conclude that the affirmative, therefore, by operating at the same level of theory, does not do anything which is done above. Now, the plasticity argument, their theory is wrong in this context. So in the context of sexuality, black people are seen as not plastic enough and therefore denied access to transition. Gil Peterson, 19. Medical science where conceive of sex as gender and as plastic part of broader racial logic. The resulting medical model is built on an exclusion of black trans kids rejected by doctors for being not plastic enough to take care. Any alternative that follows from their theory of power prescribing solutions are refusal of plasticity, which doubles down on the logic of the clinic and is a sexology set to their interpretation. Sub, supra, inhuman from cross-sex group at Elliot Blackstone's relationship to black people is not made secondary in the affirmative. It is theorized about at the top of the 1DC as co-constitutive with the project of the clinic, which is why they cannot be separated, and it is a warrant for the permutation. Now, the gums piece of evidence, the mothering stuff. One, link term mothering is a bad heuristic. Many black women are forced into positions of mothering unconsensually. Two, resilience politics. The Audre Lorde in her biomythography says that she failed as a mother because her kid still told her that she was not a good enough mother despite her best efforts through queer mothering, which means that only which means that they link to their own impacts. It is why now third, even if they win that mothering is social rather than biological, which requires that they sever half of the theory that I will do below that. It's still bad because it relies on sexological logic that assumes subjectivity and identity is a product of socialization, which is the logic of people like John Money and Patrick Moynihan that places the burden of trans identity as a pathology onto black women is only solved by the affirmative. Now now the bottom of the 1 and C about the bottom of the 1 and C when they say things like, quote, welcome home, you should read in light of the Hill Collins piece of evidence who theorizes things like the home and making recourse to women as a figure of giving birth. 1 NC Collins, quote, women are important within naturalism because women are capable of becoming mothers. All women experience being responsible for reproducing the population. Women are valued and perceived value to give birth, pass on family values. All women are assigned the duty of reproducing, which is how the slippages in these kinds of evidence make the intimacies that they have discussed throughout the 1 NC turn violent. They become those resiliency politics, which is the example of Audre Lorde that I gave, but who is an example who is quoted in their piece of evidence. Now, they read a piece of Hartman evidence about the archive. One, this piece of evidence impacted on stories as telling stories within the archive. Insofar as this is a link to us, it is a link to them, because the one has told stories, to quote, the ones who they've never met, which Hartman is critiquing. Two is a link turn, thinking about the clinic as a site of departure from our politics means we can do things like criticize Elliot Blackstone instead of celebrating him as the gayest cop, which means the historicization of the one he sees is good. The third is an impact turn, abandoning the historicization of the clinic as a relevant site of inquiry, guarantees idealization, true and Drager 19 clinics, diagnosis, collapsing quality of localities, and one modifies narrative trends into identity, calling for new foundation, or just as teller stories different from the medical transsexual. This project is an obsession for resistance and radicality that is severely limited our ability. This is why I'm interested in returning to the project of the 1960s and 70s transsexual to try to create a history, not rooting these binaries, but as world full of contradictions as women's unexpected outcomes. That is a link turn to their arguments about the status quo, or like the app being non-unique or whatever. Now, the affirmative historicization is not a progress narrative, but the historical question of the one you see is good because it requires staying with the trouble of Min 22. I offer a polemic genealogy of the emergence of identity as a progress narrative, which moves towards enlightenment recognition, but rather is the outcome of a history to consider the harms of idealization, raw idealization, driven historical progression in general. We might revenge this Western identity machine. Now, the Gums piece of evidence, I'll read a rehighlighting of it here. Quote, the shoreline also reveals a queer and repetitive time. Quote, follow Laura's indication of the shoreline. Quote, because of the queer this work beckoning. Object of study decide. Queer of color studies, including black queer feminism, is predicated on the transmisogynistic assumption that trans womanhood is a non-normative and therefore queer and subversive force that makes transmisogyny a necessary consensus point to arrive at their theorization or their alternative in the first place. Gil Peterson, 24. Queer theory cuts teeth on determining trans women's value to be possibility of overturning gender, the failure to conform anything else murder, the cost of wanting to be a real woman, an unqueer desire for something normal. Trans women colors always practice someone else's work. The foundation types of queer color studies that implies her is the precondition for critique establishing intersectional queer studies primarily meaningful for everyone who's not her reflection, femininity, life make meaning for black men, making her ornamentalist. Link turns atop of the one and see about quote women who are like me or quote strangers, because those things in the context of this one and see that they have reformed are communicated through queer imaginations of the shoreline, which we have often gets. Anything else?
Pics are bad.
Pics are bad. The refusal of the app is always an affirmation of the status quo insofar as they include some part of the affirmative, and that is a reason why the affirmative is a good, necessary part of their project.
Revise and resubmit is the reason de-idealization is good, because we should de-idealize the capacity and stakes of our research projects to come to understand what we are actually able to do in debate. We have 2 hours to get this theorized.
Revise and resubmit is a defense of historicization and of presence in the academy, which in turn is the case page.
You good?
Yeah.
First is the critique of plastic. I guess I'm confused. How does this understand or is able to conceptualize the sub, supra, the human, etc.?
So the the frame for your arguments about plasticity should be specificity to the project of the clinic.
Wait, but this is not saying whether or not our understanding of plasticity is bad. It makes an argument as to how people utilize the term plastic in the context of trans kids and like, you're not plastic enough. How does this assume our offense?
I'm confused about...
I'm confused too. I don't know how this solves our offense. Just because like a white doctor said to a white trans kid, like, you're not plastic enough, right?
No.
It's not like, that's not a reason as to why you are able to assume our offense. Can you please explain why you assume our offense?
You have made an argument about blackness as sub, supra, and inhuman at the same time. This argument starts from the presumption of blackness as plasticity, which is why your argument is that it can be all of those things at once, sub, super, and inhuman.
So how does the, wait, yes, you're like just saying what the argument is. Yeah. I'm asking you, how does a doctor saying you are not plastic enough then also assume our offense?
But it problematizes your ability to apply the trans.
So it doesn't assume our offense. That is so fine, Spencer. I have a question. The Troutman evidence, your argument, you said that it's only a question of whether or not you link back to, because you do not, because this is like a critique of how black studies or cultural studies happens in this quote. We made arguments as to how things such as de-idealization or theory end up getting usurped by the academy when they do not have tactics. How does this cross both ways? You get an argument as to why the alternative is able to create tactics.
Well, 2 things. One, insofar as the alternative is defined by both a notion of commitment, but then varying tactics, we don't see why the
it's a commitment to a
trades off with that commitment.
Wait, I'm confused. Why do you think that a commitment is just a commitment to tactics? Why do you not think it's also a commitment to like the people in this room?
No, sorry, clarifying. From one NC cross-ex, an undying commitment to black women. We don't think the product of idealization trades off with holding that commitment.
Okay, so great. So it does not cut both ways. You're just being like, you're like,
the
app is good because it has a document to black women, but
sorry.
you're not answering any of my questions.
Insofar as you've made a critique of like circulation in spaces like debate, we think the narratives of the 1 and T have also been
Right, we made a critique of how debates stands a bright line of tactics is bad, which the app's not have a tactic. You just gave examples of the app. You're not going to tactic. That's fine.
So,
I have another
disagree.
question.
That's why I wrote
I have
about
another
it.
question. I have another question. The interpretation on presumption. You said it's a question about theory, method, practice, etc. I guess I'm confused. This, like every part of the 1AC has not been a change from the last time you debated Nargis and I.
That's not
I guess.
true.
Yes, that is definitely true.
No,
I love that. So maybe it's de-highlighted a bit.
It's a new method, and we.
It's a new method. No, it's not. It's actually not a new method from when you
I thought it
debated
was.
either other Kansas teams or we debated us. We
And
all looked and thought about that.
And this is what Gray was talking about with a little bit of a hero piece of evidence. We went back
well,
to the
sorry,
drawing board.
also, it assumes
You
that
went back to
debate-
the drawing board because two
It-
black femmes debated you. So if you
Clarify.
need us, we do not need you.
It
That's good to
assumes
know.
the debate-
Next.
That's not true. That's
Prospects
what it
is over.
It doesn't.
110. Thank you.
You don't need to move my button. Fully on. This is only here for him to speak to us, or move fully on. This is only there for him to bring something up.
Oh, okay. Do I need to keep myself unmuted? Okay, did I miss this one? Okay.
This says, I think we want to be able to.
Okay.
Anyway. It's going to be difficult. Like,
6.
6. Cool.
It's so cold. It's gonna start snowing. I've already put on my coat, so it's okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, no. Okay, I think it's awesome.
What you eating, Jay?
What?
What you eating?
How Taylor picked up.
How much prep did y'all have?
Oh, yeah, 6. Yeah, 6 or 7. Oh, right, because you're the 6th.
Yes.
There are dogs I'm looking for. Okay. Give me 8 seconds because I'm all unmute on Facebook.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
Hey, Devon, are you back? Perfect, yeah. We are missing my drive. Oh, never mind. Alright, there we go.
Okay. The order is just the critique. All right. Iowa, good. Panel is good. Yes. Yeah. All right. I'm writing this here to the ones who remain by the shorelines, the ones who were easier to forget to write out of history, whose stories and tones and thoughts and lives were easier to omit from this here archive. This.
Sorry, Devon was speaking, question mark?
Oh, see.
I'm sorry, were you saying something, Devon?
Oh.
Oh, bro. It's just the K.
Wait, do we want, Devon, are you listening out of this computer or the Zoom?
That's why I have people online.
I am listening to YouTube because it's clearer than Zoom. I'm keeping my Zoom on so I can communicate with y'all.
Okay. Okay.
I got my audio on Zoom turned on otherwise, but I'm watching on YouTube because it's clear and I can see.
Okay, so we'll leave this here then. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, take two. Everyone's good? Okay. I'm writing this here to the ones who are made by the shoreline, to the ones who have easier to forget throughout history, whose stories and tones and thoughts lives were easier to omit. This is a project of Black women's collectivity for whose lives were too expensive to bring long or complicated the storyline too far to be afforded to the ones who were never meant to survive. Framing issues that I do not know what the hell the affirmative does. They have already rethought and re-theorized the things, etc., which means that there is only a risk that the alternative resolves the app better and lowers the threshold for the links. Now, the one I see is extractive in its relationship to Black femmes in two ways that are historiography and plasticity links explain. First is that their project of rewriting the history of sexology and locating traces outside of the clinic is a historiographic move that fabricates coherence over an archive structured by anti-Blackness, which means that their politic only works by scripting Black femmes as the ground which traces becomes legible. Second is that their retelling of stories relies on empathetic forms of plasticity. The affirmative requires Black femmes to be infinitely malleable about the subhuman population targeted by the clinic and also access that allows for traces to be reimagined beyond it. Now, that produces a double chain where either A, the method requires the constant narrative production to prove that traces exist outside of the clinic, which recreates the system that demands endless evidentiary labor, or second is that their solvency, or B, their solvency depends on stabilizing Blackness as a coherent analytic to ground their politics, which contradicts their attempt to de-idealize identity or transness, and then reproduces the very sexological logic that they have identified, which means that at best the app is collapsed into no method outside of their narrative or re-theorization, which means that you can vote on presumption, but at worst it intensifies forms of anti-Black misogyny whereby it's re-inscribing Black femmes as the plastic medium that makes their trans politics possible, which means that this ballot, and then your ballot is a methodological check, and that you should vote for the team who best avoids reproducing anti-Blackness and how it structures Blackness. This debate is a question of legacy, which means that your ballot should serve as a check on the legacy that will be produced in debates, and that you should refuse the ways that theirs operates violently in relationship to the Black femmes via the links and their performance. Now, you should vote negative to embrace a politic of the shoreline because it means that the shoreline refuses both of those extracted demands and does not require Blackness to be legible as forms of resistance, which means that which removes any form of extractive logic that only the method of the shoreline can resolve. Now, the first thing that I'm going for here is the empathetic plasticity link. They have recreated empathetic plasticity of Black trans women to disentangle trans studies from the logic of anti-Blackness. The narrative of Elliot Blackstone and the creation of COG at the top of the 1AC indicates that in order for middle-class trans women to be able to be targeted by the clinic, they had to be collapsed into the category of the Delaware views that were already occupied by Black girls on the street. This is our argument about how there will always force a monstrous current between us and the turning of the tide, i.e., the 1AC's constant invocation of Black femmes' labors and fundamentalization in order to construct a narrative of de-idealizing trans. The impact is infinite malleability because Black femmes must be produced as both the subhuman and beyond the human to explain how middle-class trans and the clinic must be constructed, i.e. their argument about to speak to the language of sexology is to recognize that gender was the gift of anti-Blackness, or Black femmes must be the plastic medium in the future of the affirmative, i.e. the first piece of Maltino evidence that says that we, quote, must recognize that despite the lip service we pay to Black femmes, resistance never comes via a separation of identities, but unified coalitions of those who exceed categories, and Black femmes must be transmorgified into the superhuman in the process of bridging the gap between the two, i.e. Maltino's ability to leverage the theorizations of Ceda Winter to move across from an understanding of trances is always human and reveals the rhetorical slippages that indicate Iowa's investments in the structure of misogyny, which is that Black femmes and their reproduction is always necessary to enrich their understanding of a horizon for transition outside of trances as an identity which forces Black women into place. Every rule and cohere Iowa's theorization to de-idealize trances through the plastic movement of always removing Black femmes from the shoreline. Now, that trans case because it means that their engagements with the mutilation of Black femmes, their forced labor through the closet of trans antagonism and misogyny, and their analytics of anti-Blackness abstracts ways in which Black femmes are made malleable by the world to make turns them malleable to the clinic, which means that there's only a risk that Iowa erases an analytic of fungibility in the nature of Blackness' plasticity, but the alternative of the shoreline resolves that it is a necessary analytic to infuse the use of Black femmes' plasticity to be made palatable by the affirmative by creating modes of survival and emerging the impossibility of Black femmes' existence is itself, which prevents the act from collapsing of Black femmes' existence and self-fungible reading of Black femmes' capacities, which is that it is necessary to contend with the legacy of how Black femmes have cohered through Iowa's empathetic plasticity. You all vote negative to endorse the shoreline as methods for Black women to wash away those empathetic attachments. Now I will answer their defense here. There is no link here. This evidence is our argument about how plasticity is racialized. Black people are excluded as not plastic enough, which is this sort of like a story that we have indicted, which is that our argument is that Black femmes are positioned to the structure of plasticity for others while being excluded from it. So the absolute relies on that form, relies on that. Now, I will also answer this re-highlighting. It says that those things are bad in the demands of the U.S. about what the idealized black women are. Not though those things are necessitated by the alternative, which means that there is no link here because it is indicative of the ways that the U.S. has demanded or expected for women to produce, which is obviously untrue because the alternative rejects those forms of heteronormativity, etc. So I don't know what discussed them. Now, the second link is the historiography link. Now, we are training Iowas, attempt to find traces before in the clinic through historiography. Their Latino evidence says that stories matter because they construct our embodied life. Hartman says that their attempt to tell a new story trespasses the boundaries of the archive because to tell a new story exceeds the limits of anti-blackness. Iowa cannot rescue the girls who were lost before the clinic told them that their lives matter, or the ones that we lost because the clinic did not let them in the first place, or the ones who are still here today trying to live in the memory of on the shoreline. But you should refuse their attempt to rewrite their legacy of the clinic, because the only legacy that you should be concerned with in this debate is about the shoreline, because that is where black women have the capability to create new worlds. So Iowa has reached through the diagrams. Now, the impact is narrative violence because Hartman says that narrating the archive does not recover black life or other reimposes forms of coherence over loss and reproduces anti-blackness. So their attempt to locate traces outside of the clinic just turns black femmes into a raw material for their new storytelling that cannot account for them, which means that we are winning a terminal case turn to their case turn to their politics. Now, the shoreline resolves that we're infusing narration together because it does not try to rewrite or redeem the archive, but rather has stuck with the impossibility that we have identified at removing the need to make black films legible or usable for their political story. Now, I will answer their defense here. There is no risk of an impact turn. They have misread Hartman. This is not a generic stories bad argument that double turns us, but rather it is a specificity argument about the archive of anti-blackness. We have not abandoned the clinic as a site of inquiry, but rather we have indicted their moves to narrate beyond it as if that escapes its violence, which is the top of the framing issue about how I do not know what the affirmative does. Now, their evidence just is that we should not impose clean progress narratives or binaries, which we agree with. That is our point. That's exactly why the shoreline refuses to produce a new story of trances or redemptive forms of genealogy, which means that the affirmative still does that, though, through their form of historiography and trying to locate trances outside of the clinic, and how that is that narrative move imposes forms of coherence, which Hartman says reproduces anti-blackness. So there's no risk of a double turn, and it is only a link to them. Now, the alternative, the shoreline, is a mode of relation that holds difference without forcing it into a singular frame, which this looks like black women's ability to sustain multiple shifting forms of black life at once, where survival does not have to take one sort of recognizable form or form of theorization. Now, the shoreline refuses the asked demand to narrate and stabilize trances through the archive. It does not require black femmes to be made legible as the ground of sexology or the medium for trans re-articulation. That resolves the links because it rejects both their historiographic impulses to rewrite the archive and the plasticity that makes black femmes infinitely valuable for their story, which is that instead of producing another narrative of trans emerges, the shoreline has suspended that demand, and instead the black women are able to remove the conditions that force black femmes into their extractive framework. Now, the first is to the alternative. No link. The shoreline has not instrumentalized black trans femmes as symbolic figures or tried to reincorporate them, but that is only the affirmative. Their evidence is indicted, turning them into objects of theory, which is exactly what their form of historiography is doing, which not the shoreline, because the shoreline has refused those forms of narration and representation altogether, which means that they are not just an object of study or add them and stir. So we are winning a link turn to that. Now, the Gill-Peterson evidence, we have an impact turn. This Gill-Peterson is only an issue in the context of the affirmative because they center and use black trans femmes the way that they have centered and used black trans femmes in their plasticity. The shoreline avoids those things by refusing to make them in the grounds of the policies, which means that the dissent is just a reason to prefer the alternative, if anything. Now, the permutation would fail. Any combination of the affirmative and the alternative would reintroduce their narrative and their symbolic use of black femmes and collapse back on itself. Now, the mothering bad stuff, no link. Our mothering argument is not a biological argument or a prescriptive argument, and there's not going to be a seventh thing here because we have indicted forms of coercion of care or labor not endorsed it there, which means that we are winning a link turn because they have pathologized mothering in a way that reproduces the same reduction of black femmes to reproduction and resilience, etc. But the shoreline explicitly refuses those demands, which means that the impact only applies to the after lines on black femmes as trans femmes as the ground of their politics, which is that they are not going to win a permutation because we have wanted that they are methodologically incompatible, because our argument is about the structure of their method, one that becomes an organizing grammar or necessarily exclusive of black trans women from their forms of historiography, etc., which means the links are dissets to all of the permutations, but also that they are mutually exclusive, and the fact that we are winning, the fact that they're mutually exclusive, the alternative is not a pick, so I don't understand what the picks often suppose they could rouse and cross-sex.
Even then, picks are good for black women to hold you accountable for when you do anti-black shit.
Real quick, end of the speech, you said alternative is not a pick, so the alternative will not result in a de-idealization of sexology as a clinic?
We think that de-idealization, that de-theorizing is always already happening. We think that the alternative solves the affirmative better because it actually resolves or addresses the material conditions of the people who are most proximate to the impacts of the 1AC. You have misunderstood. Like, we do not need the de-theorization or the de-idealization to solve the affirmative. That thing is already happening. You've been doing that shit all year, genuinely. Like, it don't matter if the 1AC has changed. You've read the same thing all year. I'm so confused as to what the AF does. Like, genuinely, you have said de-theorize, de-idealize, all the things. I get that. Cool. You read the 1AC.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about the F cleared up?
I mean, you can ask your questions for sure, but I'm just answering them.
Okay. With the shoreline, are Black women part of the shoreline engaging with the shoreline now?
Yeah, we think that it is Black women's forms of collectivity and ability to relate and commune within one another.
What's the differential then between the affirmative and the
What do you mean, what is the differential? I just went on a whole tangent talking about how the app literally doesn't do nothing.
Exactly.
And it also has a net benefit of the links.
How does the affirmative then trade off?
We made an opportunity cost argument per the links, i.e. you have said that Black trans women should invest within de-idealizing transes. We have made an argument as to why that is the method of the affirmative is bad and then does not de-invest.
Also, the impact, the trade-off is the impacts of misogynoir that we have, the trans misogynoir that we have isolated for the links. Like, that is the trade-off.
Okay, I want to ask about the links then. Your empathetic identification link says the AF props itself up using narratives of violence against Black trans femmes. The second link, the historiography link, says we don't talk about those left outside of the clinic like Black trans femmes, which is it?
What do you mean?
Is the violence at the point where we talk about Black trans femmes or that we don't talk about?
We have said the way in which you have is violence and has demanded the plasticity of Black flesh. That's what we have said.
Where?
What do you mean
Can
where?
you pull up the quote from the 1AC that does that?
Yeah, I literally, that was the top of the link argument that was talking about how, like, the narrative of Elliot Blackstone, etc., the cog, like, the way that you are able to, like, use forms of, like, Blackness is demanded to occupy multiple positions of, like, one being, like, subhuman to experience the impacts of the affirmative, whatever, cohere the politic of the 1AC. Then it's like they're strong enough to be emblematic of the ways that the affirmative is able to solve the things or be able to do the things or whatever. It's like that is our sort of, like, plasticity argument.
Okay, so your argument is that it would have been better if the 1AC had not theorized the violence of the clinic and Elliot Blackstone.
The way that you have theorized is fucked up and bad, Spencer.
How? But I don't.
Oh, well, she just gave you. Did you not hear this?
You made a bunch of arguments that we have nearly.
Yes, you made a bunch of arguments that I'm really hoping that you flow with, and that means you might lose the debate. Oh my gosh. So one of our escapes. Is everyone good?
No doubt, right?
There's no doubt.
Cool. Spencer, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just case. Cool. Everyone good? Yay. I am what my help on desirability of de-idealizing trans, but they have not what is necessity. There are two impacts that are conceded out of the 2AC. And one, erasure should be on top of your flow. Black women already creating structure justice, live with the world structure, by sociology, investing in mutual aid, educating their communities, and building up in the direction of resistance and de-idealizing trans by being able to demystify the myths of Western man. I almost win debate versus two Black women, necessary strategy for us and our sisters, not just anyone in a vacuum, especially when we're winning a higher risk of intellect feeling from their adherence to comparing of narratives to garner uniqueness. That means any other standard of solvency creates a form of erasure. And it's about the lived commitments of Black women making that in this go and replacing it with the aid practice of the affirmative. This turns to idealization impact. Because I always say to us, we do not need them, but generates a new dissat. I would call this the white bitches need us dissat. The affirmative theory only maintains uniqueness when Black women compare and negate the affirmative. That means stands the presence of Black is great and Spencer are stagnant in their relationship with Black women, which is our argument about how you need us and we do not need you, which impact turns to theory here. You should ask yourself, why can a 1AC only be generated, or how can great stop committing 2AC versus Black femmes, especially when that is our argument about which K of competition overpulls their relationship to community, because they only take action when they can win debates, which is our argument about how the ways with de-idealizing trade is taught to the the question of whether you were able to win those fucking debates. 2 is exhaustion, refuse the affirmatives. Desire for peace, not desire for their politics. Presumption in this debate is not just about the absolucy, but the level of coercion. The affirmatives to access their practices impact turns their interpretation because you ought not vote affirmative. Because anything else removes the death and block mode, removes the try or die to reject eyewitness invocation theory as practice. And we know what hosts theorize in the academy, they don't do shit out there. If they do, it is not connected to the affirmative. We will win their shit cannot act on the calculate or block women. That creates a racialized battle by pausing block women on the front lines of their organizations, leading to exhaustion and death. That shit recreates black femmes like Eric Garner dying in interim movements and never being able to reap the benefits because the world is under structure for us to do so. You refuse to give a balance of Iowa's and unpacked women's force of black women proximity. This should though kill at the app, especially when winning a high wisdom which legacy should operate with this debate, i.e. if your legacy is only consistent of being able to idealize or de-idealize forms of theoretical objectives, etc. And that is not what you should have within the Ceda finals. We've given a unique question for our speech about how black femmes not just cause of who are here, but who will be next, and need an ability to be able to understand not only their relationality, things such as trans/you are, but also be able to take action in those things. Our argument, in which the community only functions through your ability to separate relationality to them. I will do most of the line by line. Right here, first the interpretation. I did that up above. It's the impact trend. But their inability to actually give a material informed practices. When they say high bar, one, this is absolutely wrong. Their use of a high bar is our argument about how y'all always lower the threshold to be able to then create forms of anti-black, i.e. erasure and exhaustion, which I did above. They say theory, method, and scope politics is wrong. We have not performed the critique insofar as we're running a no-link argument on the critique. You know, you not get uniqueness. But even that means it's true. That means that the way in which you posit that is only through the reaction. It's only reactionary, and therefore cannot do shit for the black femmes and the black femmes on the ground. Also, they say written history. This is actually on the on the other part of the case page. You should go there now. We have impact trend. The burden of rejoinder, the app man justified as research in the abstract was presentation in this debate, and nearly parasitic on black female flash. The theory of power frames debate. The 0 point of trans misogyny is the appropriation and accumulation of the social the capacity of black trans women. The care work assignments necessary for yet disavowed by even the most radical movements. The first impact is battle fatigue, the expectation that black women are quantified, and compare black women to idealization, restation, moment of accumulation is emblematic of their use of Elliot, i.e. the ability to say that we should compare ourselves to someone who literally was doing fuck this shit to black kids. This is our argument, and to which we do not have a grammar to understand for the black trans women, the way in which black trans women operate in the concept of the affirmative, because you always have to compare it to niggas that will actually fucking kill them, which is our argument about how alienation happens in the concept of the affirmative, because you must say that we have to compare ourselves to whiteness. The continued invisibilized nature of violence against black women means that it cannot be quantified in the impact frame. But the expectation that we do so requires black women to constantly struggle to produce an irrational account of violence that can be understood by non-black observers, i.e. this is why you, as two white people, you should be able to understand or rationalize for the violence that are done as a black people. This is our argument about how the community has to be done, sacrificed to be able to create your fucking argumentation, which is why you should vote down Iowa as a way of taking them back to the drawing board, about how they engage in blackness, i.e. you should not be fucking reactionary, but rather you should have a legacy that should take on this, which is itself example of the intrinsically attractive relation that economy has to black people flesh. Which proves our theory of power. Are you timeless? Can I get your timer? That means this debate is solely a question with the app. Proves the analytic that counts the labor of black women. And then you should reject vulnerability, person in the captivity. At every turn, when the 1 ER stands up and says try or die, that will prove our argument. Then after the alternative violence against black trans women is always running a typical causality. But even those radical movements. Now the link debate. One is the archival work link. The one is the engagement with the archive for culture and self-creation over narrative restraint. This is emblematic about how they say that we should be able to attune to the archive's ability to de-idealize trans. This ultimately replicates a narcissistic identification with the archives where we insert our own stories, rather than respecting the limits and gaps in our constitutions. The black women in the archive, their agency makes them fungible for the movements of others, like the appropriation Marsha B. Johnson's legacy by white trans people. Only the alternative, their restraint, can help the our ability to narrate our understanding of violence and slavery. That was the Harmon evidence. Their only answer is that we also write things too. This is wrong. The alternative is not even just writing, but also putting a theory into practice, which is all of the alternative debate. They said that we draw the graph. Girl, I don't know what you're talking about, Greg. Your graph was not fucking good, and I drew it back because it was an FYI. This is a presumption debate of above. It means that you still need fucking black women to give you the fact that the affirmative was still, it was not unique. Also, their argument about how it cuts but width is wrong. That's the alternative debate there. That it's no question of how it is necessary to idealize and the cost of this is intrinsic to radicality. Oneness is wrong insofar as the affirmative is not unique. But you do know that only the alternative is able to do that. The second link is the communities of care link. Can I find it? Yes, I can. The ones entitled to communities of care ensures the perpetuation. I mentioned real violence and commodification, radical thought, communities of care are not an escape from the world. They represent the intellect names of the world. The uncritical attachment of the imaginary object community radicalizes black policy and sounds in terms of setting against violence like colorism, bourgeoisie, chauvinism. It turns the ideal community into something that's easy to commodify and turn towards counterinsurgent ends. That was the trauma evidence. Their only answer to this was that the tactics should be good, i.e. you drew a graph. That is not a question of tactics, it's only a question about how you do the forms of theory, which I've impacted about, but the alternative definitely resolves by being able to not understand forms of idealization, but rather tactics in the context of that, which is why the pill calls evidence in the context of being able to create forms of relationality that actually scale up to radical politics. That was the two you need to elder arguments about how it's that it's a cross and separate or the link that's at 0, because you don't do shit. Next. Hey, thank ya. It's okay. Tommy said he was in Costco, so.
Tommy said he was in Costco. That's hilarious.
They're always in Costco.
You know, you gotta buy in bulk, I guess.
Yeah. Lucky. Delivery the best. That's probably the best thing. Like you know, Costco.
Just a very nasty spirit.
Ugh.
Which part?
Like, truly?
I live by like 3 parts.
That's
We know what you meant by that,
That's weird.
right? It's very performative.
The forest
Very
part?
performative.
Dead.
What?
The forest part was pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Is it in downtown?
No. It's like, it's over by the freeway.
Oh my god. Get back in the house.
Alright, great.
Oh my god, it was a skull. Dead.
Here, I'll go.
It was a skull, Jason. Oh my god.
That's crazy.
Oh no, there's no one. It's actually where it's the school day program is like that's hilarious. Not very much right now. And shout out to her as well. Yeah, it's the case then.
Is there a document?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody not ready? Okay. Vote affirmative to de-idealize transit. 2 impacts. 1. Transit misogyny is a value calculus that produces racist gatekeeping police transition. The affirmative solves by walking away from the losing game of trying to prove transition valuable. 2 is idealization. The true transsexual is a myth that nobody lives up to, but everybody's compared to. Is a devil's bargain. The demand of transition, the clinical producing transit as identity, and when to secure value within the labor market required plasticity of black women who would never meet up to that makes alternative grounds of transition possible. The affirmative solves by de-idealizing the clinic and dimension of the true transsexual conceded. It enables things like DIY transition outside of it. Now, the 1 and C will get them in trouble. Quote, black and trans women are always doing the after status quo. They've also said that black and trans women are the shoreline engaging in a multiplicity of methods. This link turns the arguments about the tactics because it reveals the app is one of those necessary tactics. No words on this if true. It's zero the links. It means the permanent resolves everything. If not true, it's an idealization. It's sad because they idealize black and trans women is always the most radical, which is their offense about narrative restraint being bad. Now, tactics. The example and process they have of a tactic is the storytelling of the 1C, which means that the 1AC counter-historization is one such story. They're going to have immense difficulty disentangling those two from one another. Necessary for us. Yes, it is absolutely necessary for black women. The project of the gatekeep, the project of the clinic gate kept black women from accessing transition, and they drew the graph that it was important, which is the permutation. Now, the white bitches need us argument. It's never we need them and they don't need us. We all need each other, which is why we push each other to read cards, think deeper. It is why they have drawn a chart. It is why we are indebted to y'all, and vice versa. There's an intersection and legacy of black and trans debate and debt that is mutual. We would not be here if the following debates didn't happen. Things like us versus Kentucky, Elana Keith versus Elana Marvin, and Poria versus Lana, and Ari Tajnayada versus Elana Sunny. These are not histories that have left. They are things that have informed this debate, all of our argumentation, the way that all of you will adjudicate this debate, the process of deliberative research, pushing into many each other matter is a legacy that matters and requires both sides, because the 1AC does not end at the 1AC. It is a story that develops across the debate, which links turns this argument. We should not give up on that legacy by saying you don't need us, which is flat wrong presumption. Insofar as they go for the absence of status quo, this cuts both ways. Cross-sex concedes that black women are already engaging the shoreline, have undying commitments to other black women. It means the question of the after is never one or the other, but rather the tactic of idealization, cohering within a politics of the shoreline. So we have one, it's possible. Their presumption page concedes. Yes, it is possible when they go for arguments how black trans femmes already do de-idealization, which means that they have conceded the affirmative is good. This is never a negative win condition. Otherwise, voting for the alternative requires saying black women are not doing enough in the status quo, which is their erasure arguments, and requires the theory is practice bad. Come on, the 1C's example of practice is quote storytelling, but this pathologizes black women in the academy. People like Hartman, who are historians reading history, which link to plasticity because they must disavow those people's roles in the academy. No link to Eric Garner, who about violence cannot be resolved by the shoreline either. High bar cuts both ways. They've read these cards before the 1C, which is why we had rehighlights of them and prepped them before the debate, holding to the standard new apps every time creates exhaustion, impact, turn, burden, rejoinder. Wrong. Rejoinder is good. Is why we have files for research. Why we have files for research that inform each other. Lincoln's Warrants has about why competition in this debate is good in the context of transition. Epistemic structures operate through idealization, which produces hegemonic discourse like sexology, transitionality, debate unseats it. Research is good. All of you know it. But the link turns are bad. The arguments back to the drawing board. Picks are bad. They prove that the affirmative is good and necessary. Cannot solve any of their offense because they said process it back to the drawing board is bad, which means it can't solve their impacts or ours. Narrative restraint. 1. Link turn drop that they do not do narrative restraint, which means they critique. 2. They cannot access it. No piece of evidence had in the 1C. It was entirely new. Strike it. 3. Your graph reveals that the permutation solves every piece of evidence because they can draw it and tell the story from the shoreline. Is the status quo communities here. Whoa, double turn said that mutual aid exists in the status quo. So the alternative cannot solve any piece of the critique. Object of study decide at the top. The shoreline cannot be read simply from their piece of evidence in defense, which is their Gums piece of evidence. We are winning a impact turn to it. Queer theory is bad. The one that has endorsed queer theory, the reading of the Gums piece of evidence. Tracy Gil Peterson says that black queer feminism told an idealized version of the trans woman is an icon that is fundamentally trans misogynistic because it looks at trans women defined what is queerest within them, which is why our one piece of evidence impact turns it said because it allows people to look at trans women and say, wow, look at how transgressive and queer and freakish you are because you are a woman with a penis. Second is this is a link to the mothering argument. And indicting O'Connell's piece of evidence conflates mothering as social with mothering as biological. Indeed, they can never solve the affirmative and only ever do more violence onto the black trans women who they need to solve. Remember that you cannot have an undying commitment to black women without an undying commitment to black trans women, and they failed to meet that now. Plasticity, this argument is link turned wrong. They are wrong about this in the context of the clinic, and that is the context in which you should read all of this. Whiteness was seen as the height of plasticity, the height of gender mobility, so white trans people could always approximate the true transsexual such that we could mold ourselves into it, but black people never could. Tracy Gil Peterson link turns their theorization and proves that only the affirmative is a necessary analytic which justifies the permutation. This answer did not make much sense to me in the block. We are outreading them with specificity, plasticity in context of the clinic. It is a permutation for their ability to solve any part of their affirmative or their own impacts. And so far as their argument is that we have made black women plastic by discussing things like black side and his anti-blackness. We are impact turn that because we must be de-idealized, otherwise he is celebrated as a games cop. Now, there is no risk alternative source better than is done above. Group the 2NC overview. Empathetic identification is linked turn because the South Score relies on black feminists to be infinitely malleable towards the ideal transsexual, even if there's a risk itself relies on black women. The object of studies have proved that their theorization does too, specifically black trans women, which is bad. Question of legacy is done above and by and large on the case page. The shoreline is they're wrong that the shoreline does not require black women to be legible because they have read through queer theory done above. The empathy link, it relies on their theory of plasticity. The quote from Malatino is, I think that their argument is that theorizing through winter is bad. Our argument is that theorizing through winter is actually not extracted from her insofar as she is writing to be read as black scholars in the academy. Black women are like that is good. Otherwise, their argument is just citing any black woman makes them malleable, which means that the alternative can never solve it. But independently, they also can solve the link. They presume that black women are able to simply persist in the sound scope, but that is narrowly accessible to those black women who can upskill themselves in the clinic and a mothering, etc. Now, the historiography link. Nope, you cannot read Hartman as a historian who says to say that historiography is bad. Their argument is, quote, we cannot account for the girls who were lost before. This is Hartman's argument. This is why she says narrative restraint is good and never things like this is why in Venus and Two Actions writing about stories are impossible to tell. So their arguments that we can never account for those people are arguments that either the all links harder because it does not do narrative restraint, or the shoreline is the start of storytelling, and so is the affirmative. Now the permutations that fails is done above, links or decides are all done above. Usually exclusivity is wrong insofar as they have drawn the graph as well. Picks are a concession that the shoreline can endorse things like historiography. They're making a bunch of evidence assertions that the shoreline does the contrary that they have endorsed in this debate, which is our arguments about the Hill column piece of evidence above, and it. Look, they are way behind on a criticism of the thing that the shoreline comes from, which is their piece of evidence about queer theory that we have impact turned.
Okay, 610, I think. Is that right? Yeah, 610. on here again?
Oh, wait, one more time for the order.
Case and the critique.
Thank you.
I think Devon might be on a little bit of a lag, but he just.
No, he's good.
All right. The role of the ballot in this debate is to be a check on the legacy that you produced in debate. The negative has conceded, the affirmative has conceded our uniqueness argument about the Ceda. The reason why we are able to exist here in the first place is because of the legacy of black women who have labored and came before us and their ability to endure and persist in activity and make it what it is, which means that this debate is a question of the legacies that you promote. We have introduced a larger framing question of the importance that Ceda plays in the importance of the shoreline. You have in terms of the ability to access those things through your reproduction of transmissiological art, which means that should frame the threshold that the links have to meet, which means that any risk of a link means it's not worth risking reproducing our impact of transmissiological art. Now, the case debate on presumption is the easiest place for you to check out on. Iowa AP has not won the necessity or the desirability of de-idealizing traces. They have conceded that black trans women are already doing this code theorizing about the clinic and providing each other with DIY HRT when they have assumed that the shit is revolutionary, which means that they have conceded that this debate ought to be about the material tactics that black trans women can make in the face of anti-blackness. And thus, if the 2AR is our theory is correct, then you should vote negative to send Iowa back to the drawing board, because that is the way that whiteness controls the conversation with black women. By theorizing in the academy is not, and theorizing in the academy, but giving no clear explanation of what to do in the face of white bitches that need us. This is not just about how the community functions, but rather your relationship to it, which has been posited by the affirmative. When I see cross-exposed wall, we make the app better when people theorize about it with us. This is our argument about how the app is always reactionary but never grounded in the politic to aid the root cause of idealization, which produces an impact of exhaustion where black trans women are posited at the forefront of movements and written into the archives of their stories, but are only honored for their work in theorizing and never the work they put onto the ground to help the community, which impact turns all of their legacy arguments and means that it is try or die for politics of the shoreline, which is an honoring of black women's work and an affirmation of our tactics, which means that we are flat right, which means that they have flat out dropped a competition critique that says that your legacy is only coherent through your ability to win debates or be able to theorize more as you have progressed throughout the season, which is the only reason why your affirmative is able to cohere itself, because you always needed to de-idealize. But me and my sister and I got each other is the reason why you needed to thank the black trans women in the first place in debate, which make your shit possible. Now, the critique. You must vote negative for a legacy of the shoreline where black women's capacity is able to transform moments of generativity, relationality, community within one another, which is not foreclosed or put at risk but rather embraced, because that is the legacy that you should affirm. We affirm. Now, I'm not going for the plasticity link, which means that they're not winning a link turn here, but the historiography link will be damning for them, especially when there is so little ink on your flow coming out of the 1AR, and you should hold the line. The Valentino evidence can see that narrative is productive. So the 1AC's attempt to locate traces outside of the clinic is a historiographic intervention narrating beyond the archive and possesses a form of coherence over the forms of anti-black loss about the black trans girls who cannot make it to the clinic in the first place. So their method reinscribes and it claims to escape. Now, black femmes must become the structuring absence that makes their 1AC possible, which is a link term, which means that we are ready to turn to the affirmative, because there is storytelling and ability to do those forms of historiography is the site of violence in and of itself. The impact is narrative forms of violence because legibility is produced through forms of erasure, but only the shoreline resolves that by suspending demands for forms of narration and avoiding that grammar altogether. There is no contradiction here. This is the only game that they have here on the link coming out of the 1AR, so I want you to hold the line about Hartman also being a historiographer. We are not saying that all historiography is bad. We have insight of the specific mechanism of the affirmative and their use of historiography that has tried to produce new coherent narratives beyond the archive. Our method of the storyline is the exact opposite, because Hartman has refused to fill in the gaps or resolve the archive, which means that only the app links to this, because they have used historiography to construct a new story of traces outside of the clinic, but we have not, which means that we have only used Hartman to Hartman in a way that is non-violent, so there is no risk of double bind, because the distinction is between narrative forms of production, which is them, and a methodological refusal, which is us, which means that if we win, but also if they have said that the 1AC is not producing a historiographical narrative, then congrats, because they've literally done fucking nothing, and then you should just vote negative on presumption. Now, the alternative to it, the shoreline is a method of sustaining black relation without forcing it into a single legible form of politics. It produces a better legacy because it does not require black women to perform black women to consistently formulate new theories and theorize the things, which avoids reproducing the forms of extractive conditions that we have isolated that the affirmative has produced, which means that it also solves the affirmative better, because it provides a level of accountability and actually adjusting the material conditions, that the ways that black trans women are implicated by their politics. So that, listen, you should remember that the 1AC is not able to resolve any of their impacts. They have isolated all these material conditions and these impacts that black trans women are facing, but then have just said that we should re-theorize about the things, which is not the threshold, because they have not been able to solve the affirmative. Now, the shoreline gives black women the capacity to allow black women the capacity to be able to engage with one another without the demand Dice Club. Now, the only thing that I have to answer here now is the dissents that they have read to the alternative. Now, there is no link. The Shoreline is not a queer of color studies project. It has refused the object of study with the object of study argument altogether because this ad has is a link to forms of would be a link to an alternative that has instrumentalized trans women of color as the ground in which our theory is grounded. But that is the absence of historiography and the historiography, not as which means that our argument is about the structure of their method, and there is no permutation, and all of the links are the dissents. Now, mothering is not biological. We have independent forms of reproductive care logics as being coercive. So there's really no trans misogyny link because only our alternative via the Gump's evidence is able to isolate the multiplicity of forms in which mothering is able to exist that is not purely biological, which means that we have not queer of color studified the idea that black trans women cannot be mothered in the first place also means that we're waiting a turn to the affirmative because they have only prescribed or assumed that shit is not possible, but the alternative via the Gump's evidence has never precluded that or said that the shit is inaccessible, which means that there's not a risk of severance. Listen, the act does not do anything to resolve the material conditions of black trans women, which means that there's only a risk that they would produce a link of trans misogynoir, and you should refuse that legacy in this debate.
Oh, about letting you know about this.
Okay.
Did it just come through? Did it just come through?
No, I was.
That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm so happy to see something. I don't know who needs to hear this, but it's time for a Latin America topic.
It is time.
Or give us an African topic. That'll be cute too.
It would also be so deep.
Yeah.
The Latin America one.
Yeah. And I also want a Middle East topic actually.
I know, we need an international.
Something. I'm
It
begging.
is time.
And don't say China and Russia. Leave them alone.
Yep.
Those
All right.
people are fine.
We good to go?
I don't want to talk about Taiwan either.
It's enough of talking about Taiwan. You're right. Let's leave those people alone. Let's talk about some new people.
Okay. Order is gonna be case, then the critique. You're not prepared. Stop me soon. Vaughn, you get on Zoom real quick.
Hey, you.
Yes. Okay. Beautiful. Start. Kansas has lost Ceda finals as they concede 2 links to an object of study DA and go for a presumption argument that concedes the AF is good. Frame presumption and decay like this. Insofar as they've conceded black trans women do the work of de-idealization in the status quo, and that work is good, it is only a question of if the AF presentation and serialization is desirable and here. This means all I need to do is to win a 1% risk of offense that the alternative to win the AF serialization in debate is a good corrective against the serialization of the shoreline, or that the AF independently is good to discuss in spaces like debate. Case proper. Vote AF to de-idealize transits as a method to orient towards transition. 2, impact frame your understanding of debate and the negatives of offense. First, trans misogyny is a value system. Require trans women to prove their transition is valuable for everyone else before themselves. This supercharges our offense against the invocation of core studies because that is how trans women's transitions must always be sufficiently radical in order to not be gatekept. The AF solved by orienting us towards transition, not predicated on notions of deservingness, but off the demand for whatever one may need to transition. 2, idealization controls the direction of archival violence in the specific context of black trans women. No explanation of how the shoreline dismantles those structures mean you air AF because only the AF provides the necessary tactic for removing the gatekeeping device of the true transsexual, which we have 1, replicates the gatekeeping in the status quo. Now, presumption proper I will do here. Extended through ink. Rejoinder is good. We all need each other. Drop the iterative history of black and trans debate and the ways we push each other, which impact turns the frame of quote, we don't need you. Because if we were simple to say yes, we already know all the things, that would be disrespectful to the legacy of debate where we have pushed one another, which is the examples given in the past 4 Cedas and semifinal debates. Also conceded what are our framing issues that's not about the one AC as a story in and of itself, nor the one NC as a story in itself. Neither of those stayed static across the debate, but evolved in response to one another, which means in this debate we both relied on one another. Necessity and desirability. Okay, frame this through the object of study DA that reveals the AF actually is needed because queer theory performs an idealization to always find what is queerest about trans women. Obviously, some people agree with the AF in the status quo. Obviously, some people are doing things, but there's no differential, and insofar they introduce all presumption always puts AF because the point of the 2 NC was that black trans women are already at the shoreline in the status quo. Their uniqueness claim is a permutation, which is our rejoinder good stuff above. Material tactics, drop that they say storytelling is material, therefore historicization can be too. Drop that anything else disrespect and pathologizes black women in the academy like Hartman, who their link relies on, which turns all of the exhaustion impacts they go for. Anything else there? Okay. I'm pulling the alternative to the top. The DA flips and outweighs the risk of the link because insofar as narrative violence occurs, the DA proves historicization, narration is a negative, does around black trans women is violent. I'm going to the object of study DA. 2 internal links. First, there's no call into evidence. The split between mothering as biological, i.e. the ability to literally give birth, and mothering as social reproductive. That links to resiliency and impacts to their performance. Mothering, that this is an analytic casting against black trans women who are held up as standards of resiliency that are impossible to meet, like cisness, reproductive capacity, emotional energy, etc. This link turns the link to the K about exhaustion because the iteration of the shoreline they have performed cannot solve the impact they say it can. B, mothering not biological is true, or it should be, but it's not what they performed in this debate, which means they can't solve their own impacts because the Hill Collins evidence talks about birth and reproductive capacity specifically as mothering. 2, their gums evidence, unanswered in the 2NR. It's a defensive queer theory, impact turn. We are far ahead on 2AC Gil Peterson. She is right in the context of black queer theory and says it cuts its teeth on holding an image of trans women to court to overinflate and idealize what is queerest about her. This is why the alternative can only ever fortify trans misogyny along the lines of trans misogyny noir. It means the shoreline is not accessible to black trans women who are objectified and idealized in queer theory as icons of queerness. They cannot access their frame of undying commitment to black women. Only their answer was no link, which is the claim without a warrant when the 2AC is extensively quoting and rereading their gums evidence. 3 implications. First, winning the DA beats the arguments about the AF is the status quo because the AF is a K of queer theory, which is the basics of their arguments about the shoreline. 2, it reveals the AF is necessary and the all can't solve any part of it because the shoreline is a violent relation to black trans women. 3, justifies the permutation. I will do the permutation here. Risk is almost at 100 because they had a single line on this in the 2NR, and that was that links are DAs. Insofar as they win any defense to a link, you should be able to justify the perm. Perm do both solved it, justified through all restoration offense. Because insofar as you conclude the shoreline is good, you will also conclude that they have said storytelling, like the tactics of the affirmative, are included within things like the shoreline, which means there is only a risk the affirmative tactic of de-idealization is a necessary corrective against how trans misogyny and trans misogyny noir pops up in the alternative. See the DA I did above. It shields the link because insofar as historicization is bad, the commitment to the shoreline, they said, have solved it, which means the perm zeroes the risk and solves for all our alternative DA because the alternative DA is predicated off the performance and serialization in this debate specifically, which it corrects against. It means can't go for presumption because its uniqueness here. The link debate proper is the history of the link relies on the frame of plasticity. They kicked it and conceded the offense. That plasticity is a bad analytic in the case of transit, which is our Gil-Peterson evidence about how the clinic perpetuated anti-blackness by saying plasticity was impossible. This means every impact is downstream of a serialization that one, they do not extend to or missing a warrant for the link, and two, that we have offense against because that occurs upstream. The impact is that it lets sexology go unchecked, which reproduces the violence of the status quo indefinitely into the future. Defense of the link, one, considered historicization is good. This is our example of Hartman's work. They have no clear differential between the sort of historicization of the affirmative and modes of narrative restraint. Turn, we actually have not attempted to produce, quote, new coherent narrative, but attends to the girls who can't make it to the clinic in the first place insofar as transit as an identity gate-kept access to transition. Our argument is transition is not delimited by a set of stories that have to be told, narratives that have to be lived up to. If, quote, Hartman says refuse to fill in the gaps and vote affirmative because our argument is that the clinic fills in the gaps in the status quo, which requires everyone to live up to the standards of true transsexual. The fact that we have not filled in what transition looks like beats a Hartman piece of evidence because it does the narrative restraint which she thinks is necessary is defense. I mean, there's only a risk of our offense against queer theory now, which means there's only a risk that permutation is a necessary corrective.
There's no pick. They can't send us back to the drawing board.
There's no pick, can't send us back to the drawing board because they have conceded going back to the drawing board in an affirmative argument because that serialization is necessary and concedes affirmative something is good. Great debate.
Imagine judging this right now.
No, Barbie, you was almost there.
Oh wait, is the stream still happening?
Wait, what is scuba? Hey,
Did you get a sufficient goodbye to the stream?
No.
Do you want to come tell them goodbye?
Oh.
I'm going to turn it off.
All right, chat. Remember, add me on LinkedIn right here. I imagine, but please do add me, the Marvin Porto. Go to sleep. Take care, folks.
Bro, did you just go?